refresher program. I welcome you all, and today we are going to cover very important session. And please do not skip away today's session from today onwards. Each and every session, because they are too much important, and you will not get to understand. You will not able to get the knowledge about these aspects of publication and ethics. It is my humble request. अगर आप कुछ यहाँ से कुछ लेकर जाओगे तो अच्छा लगेगा, और कुछ छूट जाएगा तो फिर उसकी अकाउंटेबिलिटी आपके पास होगी. So it is my humble request, do not skip all the sessions today onwards. They are very important. And today we are having our first session, going to be started with the topic identification of publication misconduct. Although it is similar to the scientific misconduct, but still it is there a separate topic in your publication ethics of your pre-PhD coursework. So we have tried to put some highlight on it. Identification of publication misconduct, complaints and appeals. We are having our honorable guest already joined this platform. So I would like to invite Ritu ma'am. Please introduce Anand sir here. He has already joined, and thank you from my part.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Good morning to all. I, Ritu Gupta, welcome to all scholars. Today is the first technical session of 9th day of Refresher Course 2022, for which respected Mr. Anand Sehgal has been invited by our university. I welcome you, sir, on behalf of Department of Education of BMU, Rohtak. Scholars, I would like to tell you about his technical, academic and research achievements. First, sir has done BTech from MDU and MTech from North Cape University, Gurugram. He awarded and rewarded by many reputed institutions in his life. He has been a key member of admissions, training and placement division. He has played as a mentor for personality development programs. He presented many research papers at different universities. So now I would like to invite Mr. Anand Sehgal to deliver his lecture on today's topic. Today's topic is identification of publication, misconduct, complaints and appeals. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Good morning to all the participants and all the faculty members. So without wasting any time, let me share my screen and dive straight into the topic that what we are going to do for the day. Okay, is my screen visible to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so coming.
Sir, sorry to make you interrupt. There is a message I want to know for the participants should follow the conduct. Participants, I would like to make you aware, and it is request also. Please do not put your attendance in the chat box, and only when you have any query, जब आप वास्तव में कोई प्रश्न है जो तर्क संगत है टॉपिक से रिलेटेड उसको डालना चाहते हैं तो चैट बॉक्स में डालिए. अपने अटेंडेंस को इसमें ना डालें, फिर मुझे चैट डिसेबल करनी पड़ती है. थैंक यू सर, सॉरी फॉर इंटरप्शन.
No issues, ma'am, no issues. All right, so starting with the topic, today's topic is identification of publication misconduct, complaints and appeals. So I think the 9th day of this particular FDP of the refresher program, you might be aware of the things of the terminology, basic terminology related to publication misconduct. But again, I will tell you a few key points regarding the same before moving forward. All right. So what basically is publication misconduct and what are the terminologies that are there in publication misconduct? First, I would highlight those terminologies. Fine. Then we are going to move forward to different cases which could be there, means against the authors, against the generals. Fine. That that basically demand for publication misconduct. So what basically is publication misconduct? So it basically includes plagiarism, fabrication, falsification, inappropriate authorship, and duplicate submission or multiple submissions or overlapping some publications. I think you might have heard of these terms. You might be very clear about these terms. So just giving you a bit of glimpse into these particular terminologies. So what basically is plagiarism or what basically constitutes plagiarism? It is the appropriation of another person's thought. If I'm using someone else's thoughts, his ideas, his data, his figures, fine. Basically, I am what I'm doing is that I am accountable for plagiarism. Fine. If I'm using somebody's else work and I'm not giving the credit that he or she should get, then again I am accountable for plagiarism. Fine. Next is fabrication. So it is a practice of making up the data without having performed relevant research. Suppose I've not done any research. I am doing a research in, for example, in marketing. Fine, I am doing a research for the clothing trends in marketing, and without doing any research, without uh, uh, collecting the data, I fabricate all the results. Fine, that is basically that what is entitled for fabrication of the data. So next is falsification. It is a practice of changing the data or results intentionally, such as to mislead the conclusion so that the conclusion can be misled. So these are basic terminologies, and I think every participant should be clear about these terminologies, that what is plagiarism, what is fabrication, what is falsification. I think everybody is clear with these particular terminologies. Okay, so moving forward, now what basically accounts for publication misconduct? Now we have heard of these three terminologies, that there could be plagiarism, there could be falsification, there could be fabrication of the data. But what basically accounts for publication misconduct? What are the key points in that? The first point is inappropriate authorship. Now, authorship is a very important point, and I will explain a lot of things regarding the same. So, authorship is not appropriately assigned based on author's contribution. Suppose I have not contributed to the research paper in any ways, still my name is there. Or a person who has done some work for the that particular paper, his name is missing. So there has to be an appropriate authorship whenever you are submitting a paper. Then there could be a concept of duplicate or multiple submission. This happens a lot of time, that it refers to the practice of submitting the same manuscript or several manuscripts with minor differences. Fine, for example, I submit a paper in this particular journal and I again submit the same paper in another journal with minute differences in keywords. Fine, a few images change, a few text change. So that accounts for duplicate or multiple submissions. Fine, and you should always take it into consideration whenever you are submitting a paper, that it is also sometimes called as self plagiarism, that I am submitting my same paper again and again in different journals. Now second is overlapping publication, and it refers to the practices of publishing a paper that overlaps substantially with one that is already published. This also happens a lot of time. For example, I've done a research in, for example, female trend in marketing or clothing, and then I am using the same data and publishing it. For example, I am checking those particular trends for a particular article. Fine. So I might be overlapping my publication. I might be using some of the results that I've already done. So that could be a case of overlapping publication. Suppose I am creating a e-commerce trend. I'm checking the e-commerce trend in case of female populations. Fine. And then I am again overlapping those terminologies when I am, for example, changing the size of the population, or when I'm changing, for example, the age of the participants. So there could be a concept of overlapping publication. So you should keep that particular thing in mind. Then is salami publication. What is salami publication? It refers to the practice of slicing the data from a large study that could have been reported in a single paper into different pieces and publishing them into two or more articles. Suppose there is a big study. What I'm doing is that I am now creating the articles from that particular study, and what I'm doing is that I'm slicing the pieces of that particular paper into small papers. So that should not be done. So these are the four important points: that is inappropriate authorship, duplicate or multiple submissions, overlapping publications, salami publications. So every author should be clear on these particular terminologies, because what they do is that they account for publication misconduct. I think this slide is clear to everybody. Okay. So this slide is now basically exploring the publication ethics in arts, humanities, and social sciences. Fine. So yesterday also I discussed with you COPE. What is COPE? That is a committee on publication ethics. Fine. And I told you some important key points regarding the same. Fine. That it is, for example, you can say it is a constitution for generals. Fine. And each general takes into consideration the laws that are set by the COPE. Fine. So these are the top 5 publishing ethics challenges that are faced by today's general editors. 64% of the generals, they address that the language and writing quality remains inclusive. Fine. Second is that detecting plagiarism and poor attribution standards. Fine. Third is recognizing and dealing with bias in reviewers' comments. Fourth is issues around how the authors receive and respond to criticism. And 50% of the journals report self-plagiarism. So you can see how much publication misconduct is there. So I'm basically, in this slide, I'm showing the top 5 publishing ethics challenges that are faced by the general editors. So 50% of the journals are saying that there is self-plagiarism. Fine. We are again citing our papers again and again. We are using the same manuscripts. Fine. There are a lot of biasness in the reviewers' comments. 58% have detected plagiarism. Language is not good. It has been addressed by 64%. So this slide basically shows the various statistics or the various challenges that are faced by today's generals. So every participant should keep these particular points in mind whenever he or she is writing something. Okay. So just giving you a few terminologies before we come to main, you can say the mainstays of this particular topic. So complaints have also been made a part of this particular topic. So what basically is a complaint? They may relate to a failure of a process. Fine. For example, in case of research, it could be lengthy delays. It could be a misjudgment, improperly applied retraction notice. Fine. So these are basically what can constitute a complaint. For example, you have submitted a paper and there is a lengthy delay by the reviewer in reviewing that particular paper. Fine. Or there is a misjudgment. Fine. So all these things constitute basically complaint. They may also relate to an author or a reviewer misconduct. a complaint could be against anybody. It could be against an author, it could be against a reviewer, it could be against the publisher. So you should keep that particular point in mind. So complaints can be made by anyone, including the authors, reviewers, and the readers. Even the readers can complain. For example, yesterday I told you about the conflicts of interest, and I told you that if a reader, for example, sees biasness in your actions, then he can also complain. He can act as a whistleblower, and he can complain regarding the same to the publisher or to the general regarding the same. Fine. So these basically constitute a complaint. So there could be complaint against scientific content. Example, an appeal against rejection. Fine. For example, you have submitted a paper, and that paper is rejected by the publisher. So what was his opinion of rejecting the paper? Fine, you can lodge a complaint against that, because in that particular case another independent opinion is required and the appeal will be considered. Fine. So the complainant is informed of the decision with an explanation if appropriate. So this slide is basically what is given by the Springer. You can see at the source that it is from Springer editorial policies, appeals and complaints. So for example, if my paper is rejected, I can make an appeal and I can make a complaint that this particular paper has been rejected. I need a second opinion on the same. Fine. So another opinion would be given by the board, fine, by the editorial board, and they are going to inform you with a proper explanation regarding the same. So now coming to one of the key points, another very key point that is in this particular slide. That is what I'm. That is what I will be explaining. Yes, is this figure visible to everybody properly? Okay. When you look at this figure, you can see this is again given by the Springer. Fine. So you can see the frauds or the suspected frauds, and you can see by this particular pie chart that how different countries are placed in fraud or suspected fraud. Fine. So you can see USA and China. These are the two particular countries who have the maximum fraud or the suspected fraud. When it comes to plagiarism, fine, then again India is having a substantial. I'll basically focus on India. So India is again having a substantial figure in this particular pie chart. When we look at duplicate publications, then also India has got a very big pie in this particular pie chart. So this particular graph is very important. Fine, this particular chart is very important as it shows how different countries are placed. So you can see there is a lot of plagiarism, a lot of duplicate publication, and a lot of frauds that is happening all across the globe. Fine, regarding the same. So whenever whenever we are presenting a paper, fine, we are socially responsible for the same. So every researcher should keep these particular considerations in mind before he or she is presenting a paper or he is submitting a paper, because you are acting accountable for that particular paper. Okay, fine. So moving ahead. Okay, so I'll discuss another complaint before moving forward. For example, there could be a complaint about the process. For example, the time taken to review. I already told you that, for example, if the reviewer is taking more time, fine. For example, there is a fixed amount of time, fixed time slice that has been given to him, and he's taking more time, fine. And because of that, your paper is not being published. So you can even lodge a complaint against that. And in that particular case, the complainant will be given an appropriate feedback, and it is provided to all the relevant stakeholders to improve the processes and the procedures. So again, this is one of the editorial policies of the Springer General. Fine, that if there is a more time that has been allotted, the reviewer is taking more time, then you can appeal against the same. Okay. For example, there could be a complaint about publication ethics. For example, researchers or authors or reviewers conduct. Fine. In this particular case, the editor in chief may ask the publisher, fine, or he may take a particular course of action and provide feedback to the complaint. So basically, what I am showcasing here is that as a researcher, you have got enough powers with you, but you should keep in mind that a complaint can be against even you, it can be against the general, it could be against the publisher, and it could be made by a reader. Fine. So you will be held accountable for the same if there is a complaint against you. So moving forward, now this is important that I like to discuss. Okay. So there could be a complaint against the authorship. I will also discuss one of a very key concept of authorship. There is a lot of terminologies. You might have heard of a ghost author. There is a ghost author. Ghost का मतलब भूत, कि यहाँ पे कोई ऐसा author है that is not there, but he is significantly contributing to that particular paper. He might be a statistician, fine, or he might be someone who is paid for that particular paper and he is writing for that particular paper. So there could be a lot of complaints against the authorship. All the authors have agreed with the content and that all gave explicit consent to submit, that they have obtained the consent from the responsible authorities as the institute or the organization where the work has been carried out before the work is submitted. Whenever you are submitting, for example, I am doing a research in my organization. For example, I am creating some sort of a for example, I'm creating some sort of a medicine, fine, and I can only submit that particular research whenever my organization has allowed me, so that whenever my organization has allowed me, so that I can submit that paper without any issues. So all the authors which have contributed for the same, they have a proper consent, and wherever we have accumulated the material from, all the organizations related to that, they must have a consent for the same. So it is recommended that the authors adhere to the guidelines for authorship that are applicable in the specific research fields. So I'll again come to this particular part because this is very important. Now, there is a terminology that is, what are the factors and indicators of success, fine, and what are the problems and threats for integrity. So this slide is very, you can say, academically very nice, that as a researcher, fine, what is the situation, what are your skills and expertise, what are your personality traits, fine, what is your status and network. So all these things are the indicators of your success. What are the outputs you are giving, in which publications you are presenting, what is your past success, what is your impact matrix. So all these points are accountable in as a factors and indicators of success, fine. How you collaborate with in multiple disciplines, fine. What is the methodology of the research that you are taking, how much innovation and creativity is there in that particular research, how much transparency is there in that particular process. So all these points are taken into consideration, which affect your indicators as a success, fine. So moving forward, okay, so moving forward, so what could be the complaints against authorship. हम authorship के बारे में ही पढ़ रहे थे कि what could be the complaints against the same. All the authors whose name appear on the submission made a substantial contribution to the conception or the design of the work, or the acquisition, analysis, or the interpretation of the data. Whatever authors are there, only those authors who have made a substantial contribution, who have done a real work, though who those names should be there in the list of the authors, drafted the work or revised it critically for important intellectual content, approved the version to be published, and they agree to be accountable for all the aspects of the work in ensuring that the questions related to the accuracy and integrated of the work are properly resolved. Fine. So as an author, you cannot take or make the name of someone who has not contributed to that particular paper, or suppose somebody who has contributed to the paper and you are missing that particular person's name. So that particular point should be kept in mind. Fine. There is a very important diagram on this particular slide that I'll also discuss with the help of a flow chart, and that basically is showing image manipulation. Now that is also one of the key issues in publication misconduct, that for example, if you are cropping and changing the context of a final image, you are changing the brightness or the contrast, fine, you are changing some sort of a color and adjustment of the image, and they could have different implications on the research. Fine. So I'll come to this particular part again, image manipulation. We are going to discuss that in detail, but I just wanted to focus on this particular point because this also leads to another important terminology of publication misconduct. So coming back, so there are various disclosures and declarations regarding the complaints. All the authors are requested to include information regarding the sources of funding, financial and non-financial interest, that we discussed yesterday also, that you need to disclose all the conflicts of interest. Fine. Whether they are financial, whether they are non-financial, all the interests have to be properly discussed and they have to be properly declared. Study the specific approval by the appropriate ethics committee for research involving human or animals. That point was also discussed. For example, there is some animal or a human that is involved in a particular research, then the ethics should be properly taken care while doing that particular research. Informed consent if the research involved human participants, and a statement on welfare of the animals if the research involved animal is appropriate. So this is already discussed yesterday in terms of conflicts of interest. This is a kind of a overlapping thing that we are doing today also. So the work submitted for publication may have implication for public health or general welfare. And in that case, it is the responsibility of all the authors to include the appropriate disclosure and declaration. For example, I'll set an example for that. Suppose you are creating a drug, fine, you are creating a medicine, you are creating a medicine for removing the pain, but now a lot of medicines are under the scrutiny and they have been given a red label by different organizations of the WHO, that they might relieve pain, but what they have is that they have a greater implication on the health. For example, they might slowly degrade various arteries related to heart and everything. So a lot of or even kidneys, fine. So a lot of study is going in this particular direction, that all the things which are related to the research, they must be disclosed to the public in full so that we can make a decision without any bias. So now moving forward, so there could be a complaint against data transparency. Now, data transparency is a lot of us, what we do is that while doing a research, for example, there are a lot of data repositories that are there. For example, there is Kaggle, and we just get the data from that particular repository. fine, and we do the research. So but there could be things like data transparency. All the authors are requested to make sure that all the data and material as well as a software application that support their published claims comply with the standards. I told you one thing, that is Creative Commons, fine, that particular uh, data is there in the Creative Commons, that is allowed for the researchers that they can use that particular data. So if a data complies to a particular standard, fine, then only we need to proceed with that particular data. So the generals may have individual policies on sharing the research data and in condonance with the disciplinary norms and expectations. The researchers need to check the instructions for the authors of the journal that you are submitting for specific instruction. Before submitting any paper, we should go for the instructions that are there for the authors. Now, this is again a very key point, that there could be a complaint regarding the change to authorship. आपने एक पेपर बना दिया, you created a paper and now you say that there is one more author, or somebody else says that he is also the author for this particular paper and his name is not there. Fine. So a complaint could be regarding the change of authorship. So what are the key points regarding the same? The authors are strongly advised to ensure the correct author group, find the corresponding author and the order of authors at submission. Who is the first author, who is the second author, who is the third author? A lot of time is there is that, for example, you are doing work under some particular person, fine, and he has not even made a substantial contribution, but for example um, he is your guide or somebody else, and he says that he wants to be a first author for that particular paper, fine. So it is strongly advised that you should hold the key points and you should order them in a very precise manner, fine, that whatever contribution has made by a particular person, you should go by that. Changes of authorship by adding or deleting the author, or changes in the corresponding author, or changes in the sequence of authors are not accepted after the acceptance of manuscript. Once your manuscript has been accepted, you cannot change the authorship, fine, you cannot change the sequence of the author. Once it is accepted by the general, the author's name will be published exactly as they appear in the accepted submission. So once you have submitted who are the authors, what is the order of the authors, and that has been accepted by the general, fine, it is not going to change. The names of all the authors are present and correctly spelled, and the address and affiliations are current. Fine, whatever institution or whatever is the address is of them, it should be correct. Adding or deleting the author at the revision stage is not permitted. So basically, these are the guidelines of the Springer. Fine, I am also citing the source at the bottom. So these are the guidelines of the Springer General. There might be some changes in other generals, but more or the less, these guidelines remain the same. Okay, so there could be a complaint regarding authorship issues or dispute. It might happen, fine, it happens in a lot of cases. There are a lot of cases that are regarding the authorship issues or dispute. I'll show a few cases regarding the same also. For example, in the case of authorship dispute during a peer review or after the acceptance and publication, the general will not be in a position to investigate. Fine, the general will not be in a position to investigate. Authors will be asked to resolve the dispute themselves, by themselves only. Fine, that should be clear with you. If they are unable, the general reserves a right to withdraw the manuscript from the editorial process, or in case of a published paper raises the issues with the authors, institutions, and abide by the guidelines. So you have to resolve the issue by yourself. If there is a dispute regarding the authorship, fine. Once it is submitted, general what can do is that they can reserve the manuscript, or even they can withdraw the manuscript if the issues are raised. So moving forward, now this is again a flow chart, uh, a list of the flow charts that has been designed by Cope. Fine. So I'll discuss one or two flow charts that are very important. For example, there is a complaint against fabricated data. There is a complaint against fabricated data. Fine, that I have fabricated the data. So there is a complaint regarding the same. So how the Cope is going to deal with the same? So uh, okay, let me zoom it because so that it becomes more clearer. Okay. So what to do if you suspect fabricated data? If there is a fabricated data, then how you have to deal with that? Fine, you suspected fabricated data in a submitted manuscript. Fine, the reviewer expresses the suspicion of fabricated data. You can thank the reviewer and ask for the evidence. Fine, consider getting a second opinion from another reviewer. Contact the author to explain the concerns, but don't make a direct accusation. At this particular point, what the journal is doing is that because they are thinking that the data that you have submitted is suspicious, fine. So they have asked from one reviewer, they are now taking the opinion of the second reviewer, fine. But till now, they are not making any direct accusation to you. Fine. For example, if the author replies or he has no response, if the author replies and there is an unsatisfactory answer or admits the guilt that he has done some sort of a data fabrication, then you have to inform all the authors that you intend to contact the institution or the regulatory body. Fine, contact the authors institution requesting an investigation for the same. Fine. And then only you have to apologize. Then if for example, after these points, if he's not found guilty, fine, by the institution or something else, then he could be declared as cleared. But if he is doing some sort of a data fabrication, then he's under the law of that particular general. Fine. So this is the entire flow chart that is representing the same. For example, if there is a satisfactory explanation, then definitely the general is going to apologize to the author, inform the reviewers of the outcome, proceed with the peer review if appropriate. Fine. And if there is a no response then from the author, then you have then the general can contact the author's institution requesting your concern that is passed to the author regarding the governance. Fine. So this is the entire flow chart that is showing if there is a fabricated data or there is a data fabrication, fine, how a general is going to deal with the same. So I'll be sharing this particular data or this particular flow chart, and you can see or look into the various points, fine, before submitting any data for the same. Okay. So moving forward, one more flow chart I like to discuss before moving forward, because this is again a very important flow chart. So it is saying how the complaints recognize the potential authorship problems. Fine, there is a potential authorship problems. Fine, a complaint is there, and how you are going to recognize a potential authorship problem. So I'll be sharing these particular flowcharts with you. There are flowcharts for image manipulation. If you are fabricating a particular image, or if you are manipulating a particular image and you are submitting the same in your study, so what sort of consequences could be there by the general? Fine. So, and if there is a suspect peer review manipulation, how you can deal with that? So you can go through all these particular flowcharts. So but I'll be discussing this how you are going to recognize the potential authorship. This is again a very interesting point that has been made by Cope. So just okay. So uh, there could be various authorship problems. Fine. For example, this is an industry funded study with no authors from the sponsors company. Fine. Who is the author? A lot of white papers are there, and in those particular paper, only the name of the company is written, but the name of the author is still not there. Fine. The name on the author list known to be uh, from unrelated research area. फाइन आपने किसी कहीं देखा कि नेम ऑफ द ऑथर इज नोन टू फ्रॉम एन अनरिलेटेड रिसर्च एरिया, दैट ही इज नॉट फ्रॉम दैट पर्टिकुलर रिसर्च एरिया, बट स्टिल हिज नेम इज देयर ऑन द लिस्ट. सो हाउ इज दिस पॉसिबल? Unspecified roles in the acknowledgement. His role is not specified. Fine. His role is not specified. What is his roles? Fine. Unfeasibly long or short author list. ठीक है कि for example there's a dozen of authors. Fine. How is it possible? How many authors are there in a particular manuscript? Questionable roles of the contributors. That what are the different roles of the contributors? Language quality in the manuscript does not match that of the cover letter. Bear in mind that this may be legitimate if the author has used language editing services. That's what is going on a lot in a lot of cases, that people are using or hiring some sort of an expert to write their papers. Fine. So the language that is in the paper and that is on the cover letter, they don't match. Fine. So it becomes very clear to the reader or to the reviewer that somebody else has written that particular thing. So corresponding author seems unable to respond to reviewer comments. Suppose you have taken the services of someone else, but when a reviewer is there and he's asking for specific things and you are unable to comment on that particular things, then it becomes very difficult. Tracking in the manuscript shows that authors have been added or removed. That could be easily tracked with the help of softwares. So tracking in the manuscript shows that authors have been added or removed. So these are very important, you can say, points that recognize the potential signs of authorship problems. That what could be there. There could be several similar articles that have been published under different author name or aliases. Fine. So, and this may be detected by an online search or a plagiarism check. Similar articles have been published by different author names. So, all these points, they have to be kept in mind whenever you are discussing the authorship problem. Fine. So, you can go through these particular flow charts. Okay, one more flow chart I like to discuss because it is very important and it is done a lot of time, that how image manipulation is tracked or is taken by different generals. So, for example, there is a case of image manipulation in a published article, that there is an image manipulation. So, what are the policies that COPE follows for the same? For example, a reader expresses a suspicion of image manipulation, that there is an image that has been manipulated. The general thanks him for the same. Consider again the second opinion. They contact the author to explain their concerns regarding the same. If the response is satisfactory, they apologize to the author. Fine. Look, why I'm telling these important points is that because a lot of time what we do is that we use an image, we use a particular image, and we crop a particular image. Fine, we make some changes to that particular image, but at the end of the day, that image belongs to somebody else. That is the intellectual work of someone else. So we could be held accountable for the same by the general or by that particular person. Fine. So who is the owner of that particular intellectual property? So again, if the response is unsatisfactory, Fine. Then the general is asking you consider whether you have sufficient evidence of the image manipulation or the retraction or correction. Fine. If there is no response, then attempts to no response from the authors about that particular image manipulation, then they attempt to contact all the co-authors and various online sources for the same. So you have to keep in mind these particular points. If you are means using any sort of an image and you are not giving a proper credit to that particular intellectual property. Okay. So there could be a case of redundant publication. Fine. There could be a case of redundant publication. For example, a general received letters from two readers pointing out that the female component of a paper published was identical with a paper that is published in Journal B earlier that year. Means that component is similar in both the papers. The two papers were then sent to independent reviewers, one of whom felt that there was a great degree of overlap between the two papers. Fine. The others agreed but suggested that the paper in Journal A has used a different statistical analysis and looked at different problems. So there might could be a case that you can have different aspects on the same. Fine. For example, somebody else has used some other statistical technique, somebody is using another statistical technique. So try to be very, I would say, honest with your approach, then only this sort of things can be reduced. So some of the key points are also written in this particular diagram which I'm going to show you. Is that so all these basically are under research and publication ethics: simultaneous submission, no informed consent, duplicate submission, slicing of the data from a one big paper, no permission for data, copyright infringement, find data manipulation, data fabrication, authorship issues, conflicts of interest. So all these things, all these points come under this research and publication ethics. Okay. So now a case is there, authorship without the author's knowledge. This is very interesting. Ki, authorship without author's knowledge. A paper was rejected on the reviewer's recommendation. The editor met one of the senior authors at a conference and out of apologized for rejecting his paper. Fine. For example, there is a paper and somebody has written your name. For example, you are a very good researcher. Fine. And one of even your students or somebody else has written your name on that particular paper without your consent, without your knowledge. Fine. So that could be this particular case, that authorship without the author's knowledge. And for example, this is showing that when a particular person from the general meets that particular academician, he says that he rejected your paper, but he was surprised to learn that I didn't even published that paper, or I didn't even submit that paper. So all these things also constitute for different consequences. Fine. So you should take these particular consideration into mind. Okay. Another very important case is there. For example, if your paper discloses any sort of a confidential material. For example, author submitted a research paper on behalf of the national screening program. Fine. And he could not submit that particular paper. He also submitted a commissioned editorial to a general Y relating on the same subject. At the same time, author is sends to the copies of both the articles to a recognized authority on the same subject. If there is something that is of national disclosure, fine, you cannot share without the permission of the recognized authority, because you are breaching the confidentiality norms for that particular organization. So you should keep those particular points in mind. Okay. So moving forward. Okay. There is a very interesting case that a reviewer is submitting for publication material that have been removed from a paper that he reviewed. A reviewer is submitting for publication material that have been removed from a paper that he reviewed. Suppose you are a reviewer of that particular paper, fine, and what happens is that uh, a particular material is removed, from that particular paper. So what is the reason for that? And he reviewed that particular material. The paper was sent to two reviewers and published after modification. So before acceptance and publication, some modeling that have been included in the original paper was removed. Fine, some modeling was removed. Sometime after the publication, one of the people who have reviewed the study submitted a letter that that they included this particular model or terminology. So the original authors were rather surprised by seeing that they sent us a letter pointing out that the original paper had included that particular material. So the general could be held accountable for the same in this particular scenario. So I think we have discussed a few very important cases today. Fine. So I'll discuss a few more in the coming session. So just I like to highlight one more thing before we move to the MCQ part, so that things become more interactive. So there could be a complaint about author misconduct. But coming to this particular point, before coming to this particular point, I like you to focus on this particular diagram. This is the retraction rate of academic publications by the country. Fine, and you can see that now India is taking a substantial role in a retraction rate of the academic publications. Fine, and you can see China holding most of the space, but India is not far behind US. Fine, so this is again it basically makes a paper time to be retraction rate for the recent years. Fine, so this is again a very important consideration that have to be looked. So complaints.
Anand, sir, how
Yeah.
you are going to define this retraction rate? What is this retraction?
Yes, I'll come to that. Fine, just let me go through the slide. I'll come to that. So I'll come to that. So what is basically in this is that the complaint should be made in confidence to the editor or the editorial office rather than directly to the author or in the public domain, and should be managed in confidence until they are resolved. Fine. So if there is an authorship misconduct, the complaint should be there. So prior to publication, review may raise a concern about submitted manuscript during the course of the review process. Where appropriate, the reviewer should be asked for information to substantiate their concern, contact the author, fine, and avoid defamatory language for the same. So yes, the ma'am asked about this percentage of the paper that are retracted. Fine. So retracted rate of academic publications by the country. So basically this diagram is saying that since 2006 India has jumped to double the retraction rate of the US. Fine. So retraction rate is anonymously high. Changes to the scale of this is due to mass retraction efforts by IEEE. What basically this retraction rate shows is that for example, the time it takes, this diagram is basically showing the time it takes. For example, I have made written a paper, and again somebody else is tracing that particular thing. So that basically constitute the retraction rate, and that has been submitted by different databases. So retraction rate of the academic publications by the country responds to the same. Okay, so moving forward, I'll discuss a few terminologies, I think in the next presentation of mine. So one of the important slides again here is that what are the different cope cases that are there. There are still a lot of cases regarding duplicate publications, at non-ethics approval, at authorship issues, inadequate informed consents, falsification, plagiarism, unethical research, undeclared conflict of interest. So all these cases are there in the COPE. Fine. So you can go through this particular slide also. Okay. So now coming to uh, the MCQ part, because a lot of things will be covered in the next presentation. Fine. Okay. So let's be more interactive now for the next 20 minutes. So yes, who is going to tell that what is the important point that is related to plagiarism? Is it a violation of academic norms? Is it an offense against the author? Or it applies to both the licensed and unlicensed contents, or all of the above? So yes, all the participants, please suggest that what could be the possible answer for plagiarism. I think everybody should be now clear with plagiarism. So, okay, Monica is saying all. Okay. What is this licensed and unlicensed content? Do you know that? A violation of academic norms. Okay, so as suggested by Sushila ma'am, I'll only give the right answers to her at the end, or the key at the end. So, okay, A is suggested by Ankita. That is a violation of academic norms. It could be a violation of academic norms. It could be an offense against the author. It could be there, and it applies to both the licensed and unlicensed content. So all could also be there. So I think this is a bit of a ambiguous question that could be that could have different choices. Yes, okay, so when I'll supply the key, you can look for the right answer. Okay, now this is very important. Which of the following is not a plagiarism detection software? आप इनमें से बताइए कि कौन सा प्लेगरिज्म डिटेक्ट करने का सॉफ्टवेयर नहीं है? इजी बिब, Authenticate, Turnitin, or Write Check? Yes. A and D. Easy bib, Write Check. Easy bib. Okay, Ramandeep is saying easy bib. Nisha, Write Check. So I think you should look for the same. Fine. Uh, okay. So I think everybody knows that Turnitin is there, Authenticate is there. So it would be between EasyBib and Write Check. So okay. So when was the first journal published? This is a quite a bit of history involved in this particular question. So when was the first journal published? 1965, 1965, 45 and 55. So only those person who have read, I think, research methodology very rigorously can answer this particular question. That when was the first journal was published? Okay, Monica is saying 1665. Okay. Okay, let's wait for the correct answer. Okay, don't make guesses on the same. Okay, now what is DOAG stands for? Directory of Open Access of the Publishers, Directory of Open Access of Journals, Directory of Open Astronomy of Journals, or Directory of Open Agronomy of Journals? I think you all should be able to answer this particular terminology. Okay, Ramandeep is saying B, Nisha is saying B. Okay, so what does COPE stands for? Committee on Publication Ethics, Committee of Publishers of England, Committee of Professional Engineers. Okay, I think most of the people will be able to answer this particular question. Okay, now this is important. Okay, what is a peer review? Peer review is and does. Peer review ये है और ये करता है, क्या करता है? Is it a minor part of scientific communication? Not enhance the quality of work, not involve time, done to uphold the quality and the validity of research. What could be the most important point in peer review? Most of the people are saying D, but can't it be A, that it is a minor part of scientific communication? This is also a part of communication. So there could be two choices for the same. There could be A or D. Okay. So wait for the correct answer. Okay, APA stands for American Psychological Association, American Political Association. Those who are writing, they should be clear on this particular terminology. Okay, this was easy one. Now this is important. Transformation of traditional libraries to hybrid or digital libraries. You might have now seen that the libraries are going in a very hybrid or a digital manner. So transformation of traditional libraries to hybrid or digital libraries. What is this called as? Is this crisis management? Is this a re-engineering, change management, or a project management? What could be the appropriate term that could be used? Okay, Kanchan is saying B. Okay, it could be re-engineering, and I think this looks the most appropriate because we are re-engineering the traditional libraries into digital ones. A lot of people are saying B. Okay, good. So the copyright applies to a licensed contents and it protects the right of the creator of the information. Is it true or false? What are copyrights? They apply to licensed content only or they apply to the unlicensed content also? Look for this particular keyword before answering the same. Is this a licensed content or an unlicensed one also? Okay, you should look for that. A lot of people are saying true. What is the appropriate response to the deliberate act of plagiarism by a researcher or an academician? What is the appropriate response? कि अगर वो plagiarism करता है, is it a disgrace to both the individual and the institution to make him learn about referencing? None of the above or all of the above? What could be the best particular answer for the deliberate act of plagiarism by a researcher? Okay, it is a disgrace to both the individuals. So, but you have to make him learn, na? You have to make him learn on the same. You have to make him learn about referencing. But if he's referencing a particular thing, he might not know about what is referencing, and he might not be clear about referencing. So definitely, it is a disgrace to both the individual and institution. But by holding such sort of FDPs that you are attending now, we are making you aware that a proper referencing is required. Fine. And you are made to learn about this particular referencing technique. So, which of the following steps in research are least vulnerable to research ethics? Least vulnerable. Fine. Identifying the research variables, defining the research variable, data collection, data analysis, reporting the research outcomes. Which is which of the following steps are least vulnerable to research ethics? कि जो research ethics को सबसे कम हैम्पर करते हैं या उसको सबसे कम अफेक्ट करते हैं, इसमें से कौन सी वो चार चीजें हैं? सोच के बताइए। क्या वो रिसर्च वेरिएबल्स हैं? क्या उनको डिफाइन करना, डेटा कलेक्शन के प्रोसीजर, डेटा एनालिसिस के प्रोसीजर? Okay, now this is a tough question and I can only see a few responses. Okay, Rinko is saying B. B means only B or B or C because a second option is B and C. There is not a single option in the four things. Okay, Seema is saying C and D. Data collection. Data collection में research ethics जो है वो least affected होता है. Reporting the research outcomes, defining the research variables. I think variables, I think you should focus on variables that you might find the right answers because data collection, there is a lot of scope for research ethics to be hampered in that. Data analysis could be a lot of scope is there, but the first 2 points, okay, might hold the key. Okay, so let's move forward. A UGC care has been set up for promoting. I think you might be clear about UGC care. It has been set up for promoting quality research, academic integrity, publication ethics, inclusion and access, and international collaborative research. What UGC care has been set up for? So the answers could be A, B, C, D, and E, or B, C, D. Okay, let's see who gives the right answer. International collaborative research. Okay. Sheetal is saying that they are all quality research, academic integrity, publication ethics, inclusion and access, international collaborative research. Okay, so everybody is saying one, that is option. It includes everything. So, okay, let's see what could be the right answer. So, plagiarism in research is creative use of previous data, creative use, copying unscrupulously and making use of it, quoting someone and citing him or her. Is it plagiarism? Referring to previous data and working over it with new objective. Is this plagiarism? What is plagiarism? Okay, Rinku is saying it is copying and making use of it. Okay, most of the people are saying B too. Okay, creative use of previous data. Okay, that is not plagiarism. Okay. Okay. Okay, so moving forward, so from the point of view of research ethics, which of the following is least vulnerable in research? Research ethics. Again, this question is there. Problem formulation and identifying the variables, data analysis, reporting the results, citing a theory in support of one's thesis. So I hope that everybody is now clear with this particular point, that what could be the least vulnerable area in research. Okay. Identify the unethical practices of a researcher from the following: avoiding plagiarism, avoiding duplication, avoiding reliable information, and avoiding manipulation. Identify the unethical practice of a researcher from the following. क्वेश्चन को ध्यान से पढ़िए, फिर उसे आंसर कीजिए. Avoiding duplication, how it could be possible, Seema? Identify the unethical practice of a researcher from the following. Okay, so a lot of people are saying avoiding reliable information. Okay. The ethical consideration in research includes ethical consideration, free copying from books, informed consent, avoiding plagiarism, properly referencing, privacy as an insignificant issue. What does ethical consideration in research includes? It doesn't include free copying from books in general. First of all, the ethical consideration, informed consent, avoiding plagiarism, properly referencing, could be these things, and you should take these particular points into consideration. So I would suggest that a lot of people are saying, Sheshta is saying B. Okay, Manju is saying B. Okay, second means B, C, D. Okay, so that looks very nice because privacy is a very important part. Free copying should not be allowed. So I think this holds the key for the same. Okay, a researcher uses data of an earlier research paper and publishes a new research paper. पिछले पेपर का रिसर्च डेटा उठाता है और एक नया रिसर्च पेपर लिख देता है, तो इज दिस एथिकल, unethical, permissible or proper? What could be the right keyword for the same? I think everybody should be now clear with these particular terminology. Okay, now this is important. Given below are two statements. Fine. Every research institute has to enforce research ethics in order to ensure the credibility and meaningfulness of human inquiry. And ICT and its use in research has been abated. Ethical lapses in the conduct of research, it has been put in place. In the light of the above statement, choose the most appropriate answers from the options given below. Both the statements are correct, both the statements are incorrect. One is correct, two is incorrect, or one is incorrect but second is correct. So which of the statement basically is correct and incorrect? Every research institute has to enforce research ethics in order to ensure the credibility and meaningfulness of human inquiry. I hope this particular statement holds true. ICT and its use in research has abated ethical lapse in the conduct of research. Is this statement true? Okay, who is giving the right answer? Let me see. Nisha, how it could be two? Statement one is correct and statement two are incorrect. Okay, good. One is correct, but statement two is incorrect. Okay, okay, three. Both statement one is correct, but statement two is in. Yes, definitely. The statement one is correct, and statement two is not correct because ICT cannot be hold accountable for ethical lapses. Fine, ICT has been used in teaching mainly. So, what is the scope of violating the research ethics? The scope is considered to be relevant in respect of which of the following stages of research study? Okay, formulating a research hypothesis, defining and delimiting the scope of the research study, analyzing and interpreting the research data, defining a research population and a method of sampling, reporting of research findings. So, what are the best key points that scope for violating the research ethics? वो जो violate कर रहे हैं research ethics को, वो क्या हो सकते हैं? Is considered to be relevant in respect to the following stages in the research study. Okay, let me see. This is now important question. Formulating a research hypothesis, setting up a null hypothesis. Okay, defining and determining the scope of research study, interpreting the research data in defining a research population. Okay. A lot of people are not saying option 4. Okay. Option 1, C and E. Okay. Analyzing and interpreting research data and reporting the research finding. Yeah, this holds the key basically. These are the 2 points: analyzing and interpreting research data and reporting the research findings. Okay. A research scholar, while submitting his or her thesis, did not acknowledge in the preface the help and support of the respondents of the questionnaires. Respondents of the questionnaire, उनके बारे में वो कोई acknowledgement नहीं देता. This will be called an instance of technical lapse, willful negligence, unethical act, lack of respect. What could be that? I think you should always respect the individuals who have worked with you in the research. Okay, it's an unethical act, or it could be a lack of respect. Okay, but that is not ethical. Okay, so a researcher reports his research finding to the research audience in such a way that his personal views are getting supported. उसके personal views are getting supported. This would involve the issues related to technical aberration, research ethics, scientific rigor, or personal predilection. What could be that? Okay, somebody saying personal predilection. Okay. Okay. So last question for this particular session. So okay, I think this. Okay. So concluding for the day. So research is supposed to be an honest pursuit of truth and problem solving, and that should be kept in mind that it should be an honest pursuit. And with these particular words, I'll be ending this particular session, and I'll ask ma'am to please take over.
Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful and interactive session. Maximum
Thank you, ma'am.
students participated in responding your questions, your whatever the MCQs you have put into your slides.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have not given them hint of yesterday's quiz.
Definitely, I'll provide the key at the end. So no issues regarding the same.
So hoping that participants, you have got lot of knowledge from this session, and try to avoid the practices to violate the publications and ethics which a true scholar, true researcher, a true author is required to be followed. हमेशा मर्यादा, नैतिकता, इन शब्दों का किताबी ज्ञान में ना रख के इनको अपने प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ में भी यूज करना चाहिए. आगे वही बढ़ेगा. देखो, डिग्रियां सबके पास है, आगे वही बढ़ेगा जिसके पास नॉलेज हो. नॉलेज उसके पास होगी जो शोध का मंथन करेगा, ज्ञान का मंथन करेगा. उसके लिए यू विल हैव टू डिवोट योरसेल्फ so that you can get depth of the ocean of knowledge of your particular subject. The sir has covered so many aspects of today's session, and he has also explained already. We have discussed the authorship. क्योंकि ऑथरशिप एंड कॉन्ट्रीब्यूटरशिप जो है मैम ने, हेमलता मैम ने कल भी करवाया था, और उम्मीद है आज सर ने रिपीट की है. तो आपकी कंप्लेंट्स एंड अपील्स regarding this topic might be resolved. We have another session with Anand sir, and he will take some natural examples and live examples which already been happened and being happening in our research scenario day to day life. So in next session he will going to complete the another topic, that is complaints and appeals with examples which are pertaining to the field of fraudship. कि how to prevent yourself from being getting fraud, and which is a practice uh, mostly in western world, and now India is running faster in this area. So thank you Anand sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
मुझे
Thank you
उम्मीद है
so much.
बच्चों को आपके नाम के अनुसार इस सेशन में आनंद आया होगा।
Hope so.
मैंने तो आनंद लिया है, मैं
चलिए।
सत्य बोलती हूँ
चलिए
अपने काम
ठीक है
के
मैम।
प्रति। तो आई हैव एंजॉयड योर सेशन डे yesterday also and today also.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you sir.
Thank
So
you.
participants, we have another session and do not skip that session. That session is also very important, जिसमें बच्चों को समस्याएं आती हैं। प्रीडेटरी पब्लिकेशन क्या है, प्रीडेटरी जर्नल्स क्या है, उनका पता कैसे चलेगा, ओपन एक्सेस प्लेटफॉर्म क्या है। आपके जो कलीग्स हैं, जानकार हैं, स्कॉलर्स हैं जो अभी नहीं जुड़ पाए हैं, उनको भी मैं मैसेज देना चाहूंगी कि प्लीज डू नॉट स्किप दीज सेशंस। कम से कम आज से जो सेशंस चालू हैं उनको स्किप ना करें। इन एनी केस जिन्होंने आनंद सर के कल के सेशन मिस कर दिए, और विदिशा मैम का जिन्होंने सेशन मिस कर दिया, हो सकते हैं दे कैन गो थ्रू द वीडियोस। यस, वी आर प्रोवाइडिंग द वीडियोस of the sessions but recording cannot do the interaction which is being going on this platform. So try to avoid these such kind of practices to save your time or to do your other things. Yes, Pooja, we are trying to share all the PDF and PPTs whatever I'm getting, regularly I'm sharing. हाँ, बीच में मैंने कल डिलीट कर दी क्योंकि जो बच्चे अटेंड नहीं करते सेशंस को, उनको फिर मैटर लेने का भी हक नहीं है। If you are doing ethical practices, I think ethical thing is that you will have to cover your this program with your gist of zeal and soul. Keep yourself in soul into that. So thank you from here, and we are having another session with Dimit Gupta sir. He is soon going to join us. Till then, stay with us and disseminate the message. Do not skip the session.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Anand sir, from our platform.
Thank you,
I
ma'am. Thank you.
acknowledge your presence and what a precious information you have shared with the participants.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
सुनीता सिंह मैम, ये जिन्होंने हिंदी साहित्य का इतिहास शेयर किया है, कृपया यहाँ पर अभी ना करें। आचार्य रामचंद्र शुक्ल जी की मैं भी बहुत ज्यादा उनकी ये कह लीजिए कि एक शिष्या रही हूँ, उनको मैंने बहुत पढ़ा है, लेकिन इस टाइम इस सिनारियो पर इसको शेयर ना करें। Sure, Chandan Bala, we will provide all the videos. I am sending you the link daily. YouTube पे डेली लिंक दे रही हूँ, वहां आपको सारे वीडियोस मिल जाएंगे अब तक के जितने सेशंस हुए हैं। लेकिन अटेंडेंस ना डालें, अटेंडेंस हमारे पास ऑलरेडी आ जाएगी। Hello. Hello. Anji, Namaskar, sir. Sir, have you joined? Namaskar to all the participants, and you are welcome in this session. This is the second session of our day 9, and we are having our very esteemed, renowned, and excelled, skilled, highly intellectual personality on this platform to make you aware and put some insights on predatory publishers and journals, which is a very important issue. And hoping that you will not skip this session in any case. Already, I have informed you and requested to join each and every and motivate each and every person to join this session. So, I would like to invite Dr. Archana Sharma, ma'am. Ma'am, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Ma'am, sir has already joined, so I would like to invite you to introduce sir to our participants.
Thank you, ma'am. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. A warm good noon to everyone. I, Dr. Archana Sharma, on behalf of Department of Education, is profoundly delighted to take an opportunity to introduce the resource person for the second session of today, Professor Dr. Nimit Gupta. Dr. Nimit Gupta is working as a professor in Department of Management and Liberal Studies in the North Cape University, Gurugram. Sir is also working as a coordinator for management development programs. Sir has pursued PhD from Faculty of Management Studies, Shobit University, UP, India in 2013. He has qualified NET in 2005. He has done Master of Philosophy from Madurai Kamraj University in 2007. Sir has also done his MBA and BCom from Guru Govind Singh Indraprasth University. Sir has more than 18 years of academic research and consulting experience in reputed institutions. Sir is also guiding many research scholars in their PhD course. Sir has attended more than 7 MDP, FDP, and conferences and conducted more than 18 academic, corporate, and training programs. He is acting as a member of editorial board of more than 10 research journals. He has been video interviewed and consistently contributing the media, press articles, and various educational websites. He has been invited as a keynote speaker, session chair, panel expert, moderator, and reviewer in more than 30 national and international seminars and conferences. He has also published 3 books with reputed publications and edited more than 17 books. Sir has presented more than 30 research papers in various national and international seminars and conferences. Sir has published more than 60 research papers in edited books, national and international journals. Sir has guided more than 200 research projects at undergraduate level and more than 450 at postgraduate level. Sir is a Prime Minister awardee and has won more than 25 awards at national and international level. Sir has lifetime valid fellowship of Center for Educational Growth and Research. Sir has worked as an assistant management representative and internal auditor for ISO certification. Sir has also coordinated for various social activities and various seminars, guest lectures, and lecture series. He has been acting as a life member for Delhi Management Association, constituent of AIMA Delhi. Sir has been also acting as a life member for Center for Education Growth and Research Delhi. Sir is a certified SPSS trainer. It gives me immense pleasure to extend to a very warm welcome on behalf of Department of Education. It is a matter of pleasure and privilege for me to invite such an eminent and experienced personality to share his vast experience. Please, sir.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Archana. I hope my voice is audible to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Right, great. Thank you, Dr. Archana. Thank you, Dr. Sushila. And a very warm welcome to all the participants out here, right? Today's session, in fact, I'm having almost 3 hours with all of you, right? So we'll try to do something very, very different, right? Don't assume कि ये एक बहुत boring session होगा, right? We will be interacting, we'll be discussing many of the things. But to start with, do you think that we should have this session only in English, only in Hindi, or a mixer of two? Right? Please use chat box. If you want only Hindi, you can put across H. If you want only English, you can put E. And if you want a mixture of the two, you can put H plus E. Please write down your viewpoints in the chat box. H for Hindi, E for English, H plus E is Hindi plus English.
Nimit sir,
Hanji.
most of the participants are research scholars.
Right.
So it would be easier that we should go bilingually so that
Right,
they can
right.
get most of the, because
Perfect,
North
perfect.
Indians are
Right,
having
that is my
tight
point.
hands in English.
Right. Great. Right. But एक request है सबसे that you are supposed to be very, very efficient in giving your viewpoints in the chat box. I hope everybody can access to the chat box. Yes.
Yes, I have made it open and
Great.
they can go through the for
Right.
interaction.
So for all the research scholars, all the participants, mandatory that you should give your viewpoints in the chat box, right? We want to make this session very, very interactive, right? इस session में सिर्फ मैं नहीं बोलूंगा, हम सब बोलेंगे, हम सब learn करेंगे, right? So we have to participate, right? Participation is very, very essential in this particular session, right? Thank you, Sandeep, for your answer, right? Now tell me, before I move on to the exact topic, how many of you think that there is a difference between research and publication? Do you agree that there's a difference between research and publication? Give your viewpoints in the chat box, right?
Participants, you can write your views in chat box.
है ना? Right, very good. Now you are opening up. Good, right? So we see कि research or publication में there is a difference, right? Now, what exactly is the difference and why this difference occurs? That is what we look forward, right? Now, tell me, हम में से सच बोलेंगे अभी हम लोग, हम में से how many of us are doing research only for publication? How many of us are doing research only for publication? Because in today's scenario, जिस scenario में आप हैं, वहां पर publication becomes more important and research becomes a important ingredient into it. Do we agree? कि publication पे हम लोग तवज्जो ज्यादा दे रहे हैं as comparison to research.
As a researcher, I am agree with you, sir.
Right,
as
ma'am.
a teacher, as a researcher, both.
Right. See, understand that as all of you are more or less research scholars, so एक research scholar, teacher या faculty चाहे वो किसी भी level पर हो, like I am having almost 2 decades of experience, या कोई जो नया join कर रहा है या भी research scholar है, हम basically अगर आप देखो तो ये 3 काम करते हैं जब भी हम faculty के reference में बात करते हैं, right? वो 3 काम देखो मैंने आपकी screen पे लिखे, which is T, which stands for teaching, R, which stands for research, and AA is your academic administration. है ना? इसके अलावा तो हम और कुछ भी एज अ फैकल्टी नहीं करते हैं, मोर और लेस. एग्री?
यस सर.
एग्री? सो दिस इज व्हाट एग्जैक्टली वी डू, कि हम टीचिंग करेंगे, रिसर्च करेंगे, एकेडमिक, एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन करेंगे। अब देखो ये तीनों चीजें मिलकर 100% होनी चाहिए, है ना। अब हम में से कोई हो सकता है 40% कुछ कर रहा हो, 30% कुछ कर रहा हो, तो सबका रेशियो अलग अलग होगा 100 में से, लेकिन ये 100 पूरा बनेगा, पहली चीज। एंड सेकेंड, कि हम में से हर कोई ये कुछ ना कुछ काम कर रहा होगा, ठीक है ना। हो सकता है कोई एकेडमिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन बहुत कम कर रहा हो, टीचिंग बहुत ज्यादा कर रहा हो, लेकिन कर तीनों काम रहे होंगे मोर और लेस, ये पक्की बात है, राइट। नाउ अंडरस्टैंडिंग द सेम थिंग, और उसी पीछे जब हम आगे जा रहे हैं, तो इट मेनी टाइम्स, एंड डू लेट मी नो इफ यू एग्री, आप ए टाइप करना अगर आप एग्री हो, और डी टाइप करना अगर डिसएग्री हो, कि हम टीचर्स पर in today's scenario research is becoming more or less a mandatory thing, becoming more or less a mandatory thing, कि हम नहीं भी करना चाह रहे ना, तो भी हम पे रिसर्च थोपी जा रही है, राइट। मेनी ऑफ यू आर सेइंग दैट दे एग्री, है ना। पर हम उस रिसर्च को रिसर्च ना समझकर हम उसको कहां पे ले जाते हैं, पब्लिकेशन पर। डू वी एग्री एज वेल, कि हम रिसर्च को सिर्फ एक चीज मान के चल रहे हैं कि रिसर्च का मतलब सिर्फ और सिर्फ पब्लिकेशन है, और जब हम पब्लिकेशन पर आते हैं तो हम मानते हैं पब्लिकेशन का मतलब सिर्फ एक चीज है, और वो है जर्नल, उसके अलावा कुछ भी नहीं है मोर और लेस। और फिर हम जब जर्नल पर आते हैं तो वी थिंक दैट नाउ द रैट रेस स्टार्ट्स, दैट जर्नल इज स्कोपस, जर्नल इज एससीआई, journal is ABDC, UGC care and whatnot, right? So this is the system in which we are, right? And in this particular system, the business emerges, right? And in this particular system, the business emerges where there are players in the market which says that if you do not want to do the research, I can do the research on your behalf, जिसे साफ साफ शब्दों में अगर हम कहें तो which becomes outsourcing, agreed, राइट। सो यहीं पर एक नया कॉन्सेप्ट निकल कर आता है कि देर आर स्पेसिफिक थिंग्स विच आर हैपनिंग इन द मार्केट विच इज नॉट सिमिलर टू व्हाट इज रिसर्च एंड व्हाट इज बीइंग पब्लिकेशन हैपनिंग इन दिस पर्टिकुलर रिगार्ड। तो दोनों में बहुत ज्यादा आपको गैप दिखता है, राइट। सो ओवर हियर वी विल डिस्कस सर्टेन थिंग्स, राइट, एंड वी विल try to work on. Now let me give you a background that how the things happens, right? How many of you heard this particular concept, peer review or peer reviewed, peer review or peer reviewed? How many of you
Please,
heard
please
peer
write your answer in chat box.
right? So we have seen this thing which is peer review or peer reviewed, right? Now understand that what is the meaning of this peer reviewed. Anybody can write in the chat box, what do you mean by a peer reviewed? Anybody can give their viewpoint, what exactly this peer reviewed? Exactly, evaluation, right, Himanshi? It is evaluation of scientific, academic, or any other particular work by those who are already working in that particular field, right? More or less, they are your colleagues, which you may know, which you may not know, right? Now, the second thing which I'm putting across is, how many of you heard this term? Have you heard this term, blind peer review? हाँ जी, हिंदी में ओमपति जी ये है कि जब हम कोई अपना कार्य जो हम कर रहे हैं, वो कार्य कोई अनुमोदित तो करे कि ये कार्य ठीक है, तो आप वही चीज किसी और के पास भेजते हो ये पता लगाने के लिए क्या उसकी क्वालिटी ठीक है या नहीं है ना। उसको कहते हैं पीयर रिव्यू। पीयर का मतलब होता है जो आपका सहकर्मी है, ठीक है ना। वो सहकर्मी आपके इंस्टीट्यूट यूनिवर्सिटी में हो सकता है या आपके पूरे एजुकेशन इकोसिस्टम में हो सकता है, राइट। सो व्हाट हैपेंस कि जब आपका ये रिव्यू के लिए जा रहा है, तो व्हेन नोबडी नोज हुज पेपर इट इज, तो पेपर पे नाम नहीं लिखा है, ठीक है, और इसीलिए हम उसे कह रहे हैं ब्लाइंड पीयर रिव्यू। ब्लाइंड पीयर रिव्यू का मतलब है कि आपने जो काम किया वो किसी और के पास गया, देखने वो काम अच्छा है या अच्छा नहीं है, लेकिन उसे ये नहीं पता कि ये काम है किसका, right? Which is specifically very rightly mentioned by the aspect over here, right? That it is basically what Gita is saying, that reviewers don't know who is the author of this particular work, right? They do not know the reviewer, and vice versa as well, right, Himanshi? Now understand that there is a complete process, right? Now in this particular complete process होता क्या है, एक, अब हम इसके लोग लिखते हैं, अब आप मुझे बताइएगा कि एक रिसर्च को अगर हम पब्लिकेशन की तरफ लेके जाते हैं, हम एक जर्नल में एक पेपर को छापना चाहते हैं, तो कितने लोग लगता है आपको इसके अंदर इन्वॉल्व होंगे? हु ऑल आर द पार्टीज? एक पार्टी मैं आपके लिए लिख रहा हूं यहाँ पर, जो कि है ऑथर, मतलब जिसने पेपर को लिखा। और कौन कौन इन्वॉल्व हो सकता है? और कौन कौन इन्वॉल्व हो सकता है? राइट, ऑथर। सोनू, यू आर सेइंग द सेकंड वन इज रिव्यूअर। यूडीसी केयर, एडिटर, राइट। सो हमारे पास एक ऑथर आया, हमारे पास एक एडिटर आया, हमारे पास एक पब्लिशर आया, सब एडिटर आया, right? Responder is basically I'm looking as a reviewer, Preeti, right? And then there comes different regulatory bodies. ठीक है, अभी आप देखो कि होता क्या है, that when I develop my paper, जिसे हम कहते हैं manuscript, right? We called it as a manuscript. When I develop my manuscript, right? I want कि जो मेरी manuscript है ना, ये manuscript जो है ये पब्लिश हो जाए, राइट? आई विल डू अबाउट यूजीसी केयरलेस, डोंट वरी। तो जो हमारी मेनूस्क्रिप्ट है वो पब्लिश हो जाए, तो हम अपनी मेनूस्क्रिप्ट को एक पर्टिकुलर जर्नल के पास भेजते हैं, राइट? वो जर्नल के जब आप पास भेज रहे हो, तो बेसिकली इट इज गोइंग टुवर्ड्स द एडिटर और द सब एडिटर। यहां तक किसी को कोई डाउट बताइए मुझे कि आपने एक बहुत बेहतरीन पेपर लिखा, आपने वो पेपर को एक जर्नल में भेजा, तो वो जो पेपर है वो या तो किसी एडिटर के पास जाएगा या किसी सब एडिटर के पास जाएगा। इसमें किसी को कोई संशय, कोई परेशानी, कोई असहमति? ठीक है ना? जो एडिटर है, दैट एडिटर इज नॉट नोइंग ईच एंड एवरीथिंग, राइट? ही हैज टू रिलाई ऑन समवन दैट टू चेक कि पेपर की क्वालिटी अच्छी है या नहीं है। तो वो जो एडिटर है वो पेपर किसको भेजेगा? प्लीज टाइप, वो पेपर किसको भेजेगा? ये जो एडिटर है ये पेपर किसको भेजेगा क्वालिटी चेक करने के लिए? रिव्यूअर को
रिव्यूअर
भेजेगा।
को।
रिव्यूअर को भेजेगा, राइट? नॉट सॉफ्टवेयर, नॉट पब्लिशर, दे विल सेंड टू द रिव्यूअर, राइट? अब आप समझो, यहाँ पे बड़ी मजेदार चीज देखते हैं। एक है जीरो डे। जीरो डे का मतलब है जिस दिन आपने पेपर जर्नल में सबमिट किया या एडिटर के पास आपने भेजा। अब एडिटर कुछ टाइम लगाएगा ना उस पेपर को चेक करने के लिए। एग्री, डिसएग्री? एग्री, डिसएग्री? यस। तो एडिटर वहां पे देखता क्या है? एडिटर तो देखता है कि जो उस पेपर की थीम है, जो मेरे जर्नल की थीम है, वो आपस में मैच होती है या नहीं होती। मेरा जो पेपर है वो है 25 पेज का, लेकिन मेरा जर्नल 10 पेज से ऊपर का पेपर छापता ही नहीं है। तो ऐसे पेपर को तो रिव्यूअर के पास भेजने की जरूरत नहीं है ना। और इसी पे एक कॉन्सेप्ट आपके पास आता है जिसे कहते हैं डेस्क रिजेक्ट। सुना है आपने कभी डेस्क रिजेक्ट? राइट? डेस्क रिजेक्ट का मतलब होता है कि जैसे ही पेपर आपका एडिटर के पास गया, एडिटर ने उसको देख के ही पता लगा लिया कि ये पेपर हमारे जर्नल के लिए उपयुक्त नहीं है, दैट दिस पेपर इज नॉट मेंट फॉर आवर जर्नल बिकॉज ए देयर माइट बी लेंथ इश्यूज, बी देयर माइट बी थीम इश्यूज, सी देयर माइट बी कॉन्ट्रफ्लिक्ट इश्यूज एंड सो मेनी अदर थिंग्स। लेकिन अगर वो डेस्क एडिटर के पास से रिजेक्ट नहीं होता तो इट विल गो टू दी रिव्यूअर। अब आप देखो, आपने 0 डे पे पेपर डाला था, क्या आपको लगता है कि जो पर्टिकुलर रिव्यूअर है उसके पास जाने से पहले एडिटर जब ये सारी चीजें देख रहा है तो उसे 3 से 5 दिन लगेंगे? डू यू एग्री? डू यू एग्री? उसे 3 से 5 दिन तो लगेंगे। आपका पेपर उसके पास जाएगा, वो पेपर को देखेगा, मैच करेगा, और फिर पता लगाएगा कि वो पेपर उसका मैच हो रहा है नहीं हो रहा। 1 वीक पॉसिबल है, बिल्कुल है, पर 3 से 5 दिन तो कम से कम लगने चाहिए। राइट नाउ इफ वी एज्यूम कि वो 5th डे पर आपका पेपर रिव्यूअर को भेजता है, राइट? अब रिव्यूअर 1 या 2 नहीं होते, जनरली 3 होते हैं। इसके पीछे लॉजिक क्या है? जनरली रिव्यूअर 1 2 ना होकर 3 होते हैं, इसके पीछे लॉजिक क्या है? सिंपल सा लॉजिक है कि एक आदमी की ओपिनियन से 2 आदमी की ओपिनियन अच्छी होती है, एग्रीड, बायसनेस ना हो। लेकिन आप समझो कि अगर उसने 2 रिव्यूअर रखे होते और एक रिव्यूअर कहता पेपर अच्छा है, एक रिव्यूअर कहता पेपर खराब है, किसकी बात माने? राइट? एक पेपर कहता है, एक रिव्यूअर कहता है पेपर बहुत अच्छा है, एक रिव्यूअर कहता है पेपर खराब है, तो वो किसकी बात माने? दोनों बिल्कुल अलग अलग बातें बोल रहे हैं। जब 3 लोग होते हैं या ऑड नंबर होता है तो 2 लोग कहीं ना कहीं मेजोरिटी की तरफ जाएंगे। राइट रेखा, यू आर, तो वहां पे आपके पास मेजोरिटी आ जाती है, ठीक है ना? और इसीलिए जब वो 3 रिव्यूअर हैं उनके पास जाएगा, अब 3 लोग अलग अलग हैं जो उस रिव्यू पेपर को रिव्यू कर रहे हैं, आपको लगता है उन रिव्यूअर्स को कम से कम 15 दिन से लेकर 6 महीने तक का टाइम लगना चाहिए, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन जर्नल, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन जर्नल, राइट? क्योंकि जो रिव्यूअर है, क्या उसको रिव्यू करने का पैसा मिलता है? जो रिव्यूअर है, क्या उसे रिव्यू करने का पैसा मिलता है?
Some journals are paying, some are not, sir.
मेजोरिटी ऑफ देम आर नॉट पेइंग, मैडम, है ना? मेजोरिटी ऑफ देम आर नॉट पेइंग।
They are mentioning in the guidelines, but actually they are
राइट,
not.
राइट, सो मेजोरिटी ऑफ देम आर नॉट पेइंग। तो ये जो रिव्यूअर्स हैं, ये आपके मेरे जैसे लोग होंगे जो किसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में वर्क कर रहे होंगे, राइट? अगर ये किसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में वर्क कर रहे होंगे तो ये टीचिंग भी करते होंगे, एकेडमिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन भी करते होंगे, तो इनके पास भी उतने टाइम होगा जितना मेरा आपके पास होता है टाइम, राइट? एंड दे डोंट हैव सच ग्रेट मोटिवेशन, सो दे हैव टू टेक देयर टाइम। तो इसीलिए रिव्यू प्रोसेस में हमेशा हमारा टाइम लगता है, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन जर्नल टू दी जर्नल, राइट? अब वो रिव्यूअर जब आपका पेपर देखेगा तो रिव्यूअर में सजेस्ट सर्टेन सजेशंस टू यू, राइट? रिव्यूअर में गिव सर्टेन काइंड ऑफ कमेंट्स टू यू, उन कमेंट्स को फिर आप इनकॉर्पोरेट करोगे, राइट? फिर उन कमेंट्स को आप चेंज करोगे, फिर दोबारा रिव्यू में जाएगा। तो आपके हिसाब से एक अच्छा जर्नल, ठीक ठाक जर्नल, क्या कम से कम 3 से 6 महीने तो ले ये पूरा प्रोसेस होने में? एग्री, डिसएग्री? कोई भी जर्नल कम से कम 3 से 6 महीने तो ले पूरा प्रोसेस होने में। एग्री? यस,
Setting the genuinity, going with the ethics, so surely it will take this time.
यस, राइट। लेकिन अब मैं आपको बड़ी मजेदार बताता हूँ, कुछ जर्नल्स ऐसे हैं जो करीबन करीबन 1 साल लेते हैं यही काम करने में। कुछ जर्नल्स ऐसे हैं जो ये काम आपके लिए 3 दिन में कर देते हैं, जो हमने 6 महीने पे अभी तक कमाए ना। तो एक जर्नल जो है वो तो कहता है मैं आपसे कम से कम 12 से 15 महीने लूंगा ये काम करने में, और एक जर्नल कहता है मैं यही काम आपके लिए 3 दिन में करके दे दूंगा। कौन सा जर्नल बेटर है? कौन सा जर्नल बेटर है? जो 2 से 3 दिन में ले रहा है, या जो पहले हमें बात कर रहा है कि वो कम से कम पूरा प्रोसेस लेगा? आई विल डिस्कस अबाउट स्कोपस एज वेल, डोंट वरी। हमारे पास देखिए आज 3 घंटे हैं और कल का 1.5 घंटा हमारे पास 4.5 घंटे हैं, है ना। वी विल डिस्कस ईच एंड एवरीथिंग, डोंट वरी एट ऑल। आप मुझे बीच बीच में याद दिलाते रहना, आई विल गिव यू ऑल द डिस्कशन, ठीक है।
There is another session prepared for the participants regarding this matter.
Great, great, great. So then I will touch it very briefly and then they will get more of the details over there.
Yes,
ठीक है
it
ना?
will revise them.
यस, राइट। तो अब देखिए, जो जर्नल आपको कहता है कि वो 3 से 6 दिन में या 5 दिन में आपकी रिसर्च को पब्लिकेशन की तरफ ले जाएगा, क्या उस जर्नल में पीयर रिव्यू हुआ होगा?
पॉसिबल ही नहीं है 3 दिन में।
पॉसिबिलिटी नहीं है ना। अगर खाना पूर्ति के लिए कर भी दी गया तो वो क्या रिव्यू होगा आप भी बता सकते हो, आई कैन ऑल्सो टेल, राइट। और यहीं से शुरुआत होती है प्रीडेटरी जर्नल्स की। तो अब आप समझो, वो जर्नल्स जो एक लेवल को फॉलो कर रहे हैं और वो जर्नल्स जो एक लेवल को फॉलो नहीं कर रहे। सो जर्नल्स विच सेज टू यू that you will get your publication as fast as possible in 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, perhaps they are indicating to you कि वो predatory journal है। इतना
Nimit sir,
हाँ जी,
they are also claiming that they are having this ISSN number and this and that number.
हाँ जी मैम, वो बहुत सारी चीजें मैं आ रहा हूँ, एक एक करके उनके ऊपर आ रहा हूँ, ठीक है ना। तो पहले मैं आपको चीज बता रहा हूँ कि पहला अलार्म जो है ना आपका कहाँ पर बजना चाहिए, ठीक है। पहला अलार्म आपका प्रीडेटरी जर्नल पे कहाँ बजना चाहिए कि जब वो आपको बता देना टाइम इतना लगेगा, तो सबसे पहला अलार्म बजना चाहिए कि भैया इतनी जल्दी तो अगर आप मेरे को पब्लिकेशन करके दे रहे हो ना, तो ये प्रीडेटरी जर्नल की पॉसिबिलिटी बहुत ज्यादा हाईएस्ट है। डू वी एग्री? डू वी एग्री कि
Yes.
पहला अलार्म आपका तब बज जाना चाहिए कि ये प्रीडेटरी जर्नल की तरफ हम जा रहे हैं। अब देखो, मैं यहाँ पे आपको एक बात और बताता हूँ, बहुत मजेदार बात है कि बहुत सारे रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स मेरे से कनेक्ट करते हैं या किसी के थ्रू मेरे पास उनका मैसेज आता है कि सर वी वांट फास्ट पब्लिकेशन, दैट वी वांट फास्ट पब्लिकेशन, क्योंकि हमारी पीएचडी सबमिट नहीं हो पाएगी, है ना। हमारी पीएचडी जो है उसके लिए हमें कुछ पब्लिकेशन चाहिए, तो हमें बहुत जल्दी पब्लिकेशन चाहिए, कोई जर्नल बता दीजिए, विच इज अ वेरी वेरी रॉन्ग अप्रोच। एंड सेकेंड थिंग कि आप अगर प्रीडेटरी जर्नल में छाप भी लोगे ना, पब्लिकेशन भी करा लोगे, तो उसकी कोई वैल्यू नहीं है। आपका सीवी में अगर आप उसे लिखोगे तो वो सीवी को हेल्प करने की बजाय आपको डेंट करेगा, आपको नुकसान ही पहुंचाएगा, ठीक है ना। प्रीडेटरी जर्नल का मतलब ही यही है कि जो जर्नल आपकी ग्रोथ को प्रीडेट कर देगा, ठीक है। तो प्रीडेटरी जर्नल का सबसे पहला अलार्म जो आप देख रहे हो वो यहाँ पर आ जाना चाहिए। यहाँ तक किसी को कोई डाउट, कोई परेशानी? एनीवन हैविंग एनी डाउट टिल हियर? चलें आगे, ठीक है। अभी हम आगे थोड़ा सा और बढ़ते हैं और फिर प्रीडेटरी की तरफ जाते हैं, और एक बड़ी मजेदार चीज और निकल कर आती है कि अब देखिए, हम जब कहते हैं ना कि कोई चीज अच्छी है, पर कितनी अच्छी है ये तो पता लगाएं। तो जर्नल प्रीडेटरी है या नहीं है इसका अलार्म आपको पता चल गया, लेकिन अगर कोई जर्नल अच्छा है तो वो कितना अच्छा है उसके बहुत सारे पैरामीटर्स हैं, ठीक है। सबसे पहला पैरामीटर जो आप उसमें देखते हो वो उसमें आता है उसका साइटेशन इंडेक्स का। सुना है आपने कभी वर्ड ये साइटेशन इंडेक्स? राइट। साइटेशन इंडेक्स का मतलब है कि उस जर्नल के पेपर्स को लोग कितना पढ़ते हैं, कितना अपनी स्टडीज में उसको साइट करते हैं, राइट। अब जितना जर्नल ज्यादा अच्छा होगा, लोग जितना ज्यादा उसको साइट करेंगे, उतना उसका साइटेशन इंडेक्स बढ़ जाएगा, राइट। तो जितना ज्यादा जर्नल के पेपर्स को लोग देखेंगे, उतना ज्यादा साइट करेंगे, उतना उसका इंडिकेशन जो है वो बढ़ जाएगा, ठीक हुई इतनी बात। लेकिन अब आप समझो ये साइटेशन के नाम पर प्रीडेटरी जर्नल कैसे बेवकूफ बनाते हैं। ये अपने अलग अलग नाम के साइटेशन इंडेक्स लेकर आते हैं। जैसे किसी ने नाम दिया इंडियन साइटेशन इंडेक्स, किसी ने नाम दिया जर्नल साइटेशन इंडेक्स, राइट। स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन नहीं है, ठीक है ना, कोई स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन फॉलो नहीं कर रहे हैं, और हर जर्नल एक नया साइटेशन इंडेक्स डालकर अपने आप को बताना शुरू कर देता है कि वो एक अच्छा जर्नल है, लेकिन ऐसा होता नहीं है। तो दूसरा अलार्म कहाँ पे बजना चाहिए आपका? दूसरा अलार्म बजना चाहिए कि उसके साइटेशंस में वो कहाँ कहाँ पर लिस्टेड है और उसके साइटेशन इंडेक्स की पोजीशन क्या है। ठीक है, तो इसी के साथ तीसरी चीज जो बहुत जुड़ी हुई है ना, कि हर जर्नल जो है ना, उसका एक पब्लिकेशन हाउस होता है। ठीक है, तो आपको देखना चाहिए कि जो जर्नल है उसका पब्लिकेशन हाउस कौन सा है। आप जिस भी फील्ड में रिसर्च करते हो, हर फील्ड में कुछ स्पेसिफिक पब्लिकेशन हाउसेस हैं। जैसे मैं अभी आपकी स्क्रीन पे लिख रहा हूँ, एक पब्लिकेशन हाउस है जिसका नाम है T&F। सुना है कभी किसी ने T&F?
टेलर एंड फ्रांसिस।
टेलर एंड फ्रांसिस, राइट। ऐसे ही एक आपके पास हाउस है जिसका नाम है एमराल्ड। ऐसे ही है जिसका नाम है साइंटिफिक प्रेस, राइट। एंड बहुत सारे ऐसे हैं। तो जब आप एक पब्लिकेशन हाउस वाले जर्नल पे जाते हो ना, जिसका पब्लिकेशन हाउस बहुत स्ट्रांग है, तो ऐसे जर्नल्स की संभावना प्रीडेटरी होने की बहुत कम हो जाती है। तो पहले अलार्म के बाद दो अलार्म आपको एक साथ देखने हैं, जिसमें पहला अलार्म आपके पास आ रहा है कि उसका साइटेशन इंडेक्स कैसा है, और दूसरा अलार्म आपके पास उसके साथ साथ आ रहा है कि उसका कोई पब्लिकेशन हाउस के साथ तजुर्बा है या नहीं है। क्लियर होती है इतनी बात? तो वहां पर आप चीजों को बहुत आसानी से उसके साथ देख पाते हो। ठीक है, अभी मैं आपको एक प्रैक्टिकल इसमें चीज दिखाता हूं जिसके साथ आप उस चीज को रिलेट कर पाओगे, राइट, कि वो कैसे इसके साथ मूव करता है। ठीक है ना, गिव मी 1 मिनट। मैं आपके साथ अपनी स्क्रीन शेयर करूंगा अभी। ठीक है ना, और फिर आप उसके साथ उस चीज को आप थोड़ा सा मैच करने की कोशिश करना, आप मुझे आंसर भी देना। ठीक है, मैं आपके साथ अपनी स्क्रीन शेयर कर रहा हूँ, आप मुझे बताना कि क्या आप देख पा रहे हो। क्या आप एक वेबसाइट देख पा रहे हो जिसपे लिखा है साउथ एशियन जर्नल ऑफ मार्केटिंग?
यस सर।
है ना? अब देखो, आप इस जर्नल को अगर देखो, पहली लुक देखते हैं इस जर्नल की। ठीक है, पहली लुक में ये एक बड़े हाउस के साथ जुड़ा हुआ है, और वो जो बड़ा हाउस है वो हमें दिख रहा है, वो है एमराल्ड पब्लिशिंग। क्लियर इतनी बात? ठीक है, तो इसके प्रीडेटरी होने की संभावना हमारी कम हो जाती है। अब इसी जर्नल पे आगे जाते हैं, और इस जर्नल पे हम देखते हैं कि इसकी साइटेशंस या बाकी रैंकिंग से इंडेक्सिंग कैसी है। जब आप इसकी इंडेक्सिंग और रैंकिंग्स देखते हो, तो आपको दिखता है कि ये कहाँ कहाँ पर है जर्नल। क्लियर होती है इतनी बात? क्लियर है?
यस सर।
है ना? अब इसके साथ एक चीज और बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट है जो आपको दिमाग में रखनी है, राइट, वो ये है कि इसका जो एडिटोरियल बोर्ड होता है ना किसी भी जर्नल का, उसमें आप जाओ, जैसे आप यहाँ पे जाते हो इस जर्नल में, और आप इसकी एडिटोरियल टीम देखते हो। ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे आपको बड़े सारे लोग दिखेंगे। अब आप एक काम करो, यहाँ पर आपको कहीं पर एडिटोरियल एडवाइजरी बोर्ड में मेरा नाम दिखता है आपको यहाँ पर?
यस इट इज।
ठीक है, मेरा नाम आपको दिखा। अब आप क्या करो, अब आपको ये पता है कि डॉक्टर निमित गुप्ता नॉर्थ कैप यूनिवर्सिटी के साथ एसोसिएटेड है, ये चीज इस जर्नल ने लिखी। अगर आप इसको गूगल सर्च करते हो और ये चीज आपको वैसी की वैसी मिलती है, इसका मतलब जर्नल जेन्युइन है ना, राइट। तो चौथा अलार्म आपका कहां पर बजना चाहिए? चौथा अलार्म आपका बजना चाहिए कि आप देखो जो एडिटर है ना, वो एडिटर का नाम के साथ धोखा तो नहीं हुआ हुआ। बहुत सारे प्रीडेटरी जर्नल क्या करते हैं, वो जब आप उस जर्नल को देखते हो तो वहां पर एडिटर का नाम कुछ और है, उसका इंस्टीट्यूट जिसके साथ वो अटैच है वो कुछ और है, और सब चीजें गोलमाल हुई हुई आपको नजर आएंगी। ये चौथा अलार्म क्लियर होता है? चौथा अलार्म हमें क्लियर होता है। तो हमने चार अलार्म की बात करी है अभी। पहला अलार्म जो था वो हमारा था टाइम वाला। ठीक है, दूसरा अलार्म था हमारा साइटेशन वाला, राइट। तीसरा अलार्म जो था हमारा, वो हमने देखा था, वो मूव कर रहा था कि उसका पब्लिशर कौन है, राइट। एंड फोर्थ, विद द डिटेल विद रेफरेंस टू द एडिटर। मैं आ रहा हूँ उस क्वेश्चन पे भी आपके, ठीक है। तो ये चार चीजों के अलार्म जो है ना, ये जब आप देखते हो तो आपको, वेरी गुड सुरुचि, आपको वहां पे थोड़ा थोड़ा आइडिया लगना शुरू हो जाता है कि जर्नल जो है वो प्रीडेटरी की बात तो नहीं कर रहे। क्लियर है ना। और वहीं से बहुत सारी चीजें निकल कर आनी शुरू हो जाती हैं। क्लियर है। अभी मैं आपसे अपनी एक स्क्रीन शेयर कर रहा हूं, ठीक है, जो कि मेरी एक पीपीटी है, ठीक है, जो आपको थोड़ा सा और हिंट देगी कि कैसे आप चीजें देखते हो। क्या आपको मेरी पीपीटी देख पा रहे हो आप लोग?
Yes, sir, visible.
राइट।
Make
हाँ
make
जी,
it make it slideshow, sir, so
हाँ
that
जी,
it
आई
will be
एम
shown.
डूइंग, इज इट फाइन मैडम?
Sir, make it slideshow so that it can
I've
be.
done it slide show.
But it is showing all the side slides also. So no problem, you can go with that.
ओके, राइट। राइट, सो यहाँ पर आप देखोगे ना, तो आपको एक चीज दिख रही है विच इज सीओपी। आपको दिख रहा है सीओपी?
Sir, your first slide is visible.
Then it is not moving, I don't know. Let me reconnect with it.
Yesterday we have discussed on COPE and BMU. So might
Right.
be participants are there.
Is it visible, madam?
Please click on the slide which you want to explain.
Is it fine?
Still it is publication code of conduct.
यही आपको स्लाइड दिख रहा है? अभी दूसरा दिखा है क्या?
No, sir, it is still showing the first slide.
Okay. Let me show it once again. अभी मैम कुछ दिख रहा है क्या?
Sir, it is still the slide showing publication. Now it is follow
Right.
practices and
Right.
guidelines,
Right.
that is
Great.
COPE.
Great. ग्रेट। मैं इसको ना मैम थोड़ा स्लाइड शो, अब स्लाइड शो पूरा दिख रहा है?
Please click on that.
I've clicked. चलिए कोई बात
It
नहीं,
is not
कोई
responding,
बात
but
नहीं।
it is okay to go with
राइट,
that.
तो हमें कोप दिख रहा है। ये जो कोप है ना, ये बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है। तो प्रीडेटरी जर्नल को ना जब हम नापते हैं ना, तो सबसे पहली चीज आप ये देख लो कि वो कोप का मेंबर है या नहीं है। अगर वो सीओपी कोप का मेंबर नहीं है ना, तो उसके प्रीडेटरी होने के चांसेस बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ जाते हैं, राइट। अब प्रीडेटरी में भी क्या करना है हमने, आप यहाँ पे कुछ देख पा रहे हो? यहाँ पर आर एबल टू सी माय नेक्स्ट स्लाइड रिगार्डिंग द
Signs
प्रीडेटरी?
that a journal may be.
राइट, में भी प्रीडेटरी कि ओपन एक्सेस, जहां पर पैसे की बात आ रही है, कोई एडिटिंग नहीं है, कोई पीयर रिव्यू नहीं है ना, इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर के बारे में नकली बात करते हैं, ऐसे जर्नल्स को हम ज्यादातर अपने प्रीडेटरी की तरफ लेकर जाते हैं। और यहाँ पर भी मैं आपको एक बड़ी मजेदार चीज बताता हूँ, राइट। ये चीज देखिए जरा, पहला क्वेश्चन देखिए, इज द एडिटर अ रियल पर्सन एंड व्हाट अबाउट देयर इंस्टीट्यूशन? जैसा मैंने आपको दिखाया कि वहां पर मेरा नाम है, और मेरा नाम वही है जो कि मेरी वेबसाइट पे या बाकी सारी चीजों पर है, राइट। पहली चीज। दूसरी चीज, कैन यू नो हु इज द पब्लिशर, which organization is looking after that particular thing? That becomes very very important, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाती है यहाँ पे। और तीसरी चीज, फेक रैंकिंग इंफॉर्मेशन, ठीक है। अब आप देखो, एक यहाँ पर कॉन्सेप्ट हमारे पास होता है जिसे हम बेसिकली नाम देते हैं आईएफ का, और इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर का आईएफ, राइट। आईएफ और इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर का बेसिक मतलब है कि जो आपका जर्नल है उसका इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर कितना है, ठीक है ना। इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर का मतलब आप समझ पा रहे होंगे कि इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर का मतलब है, जैसा हम लोगों ने डिस्कस किया था कि आपका जर्नल के पेपर में लोग कितनी बार उस पेपर को साइट करते हैं, कितनी बार उस जर्नल के पेपर को लोग जो हैं वो यूज करते हैं अपनी रिसर्च में। ठीक है, लेकिन अभी मैं आपको एक बहुत अच्छी सी एग्जांपल देता हूं जिसके साथ आप रिलेट कर पाओगे। आप ये वाली स्लाइड देखो जरा। इस स्लाइड के बारे में आपका कुछ व्यू पॉइंट है क्या?
Call
आपको,
for papers.
हाँ जी, आप ऑन दी बिल्कुल राइट वाली साइड देखना जहां पर लिखा हुआ है JIF,
Yes.
ग्लोबल इंस्टीट्यूट फॉर साइंटिफिक इंफॉर्मेशन, और उसके नीचे लिखा हुआ है GIF, ग्लोबल इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर। दोनों में से कौन सा असली है? दोनों में से कौन सा असली है, GIF या GIF?
I think which is giving the information global impact factor. The
ओके,
GIF.
मैं स्लाइड अपना शेयर कर स्टॉप कर रहा हूँ। अब आप देखिए, और हम चैट बॉक्स में वापस आ रहे हैं, ये जो GIF है, ये GIF है, ये दोनों के दोनों नकली हैं। दोनों के दोनों नकली हैं। असली जो इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर है वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ एक ही है, जिसका नाम है IF, इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर। दैट्स इट। क्लियर होती है इतनी बात हमें,
Yes.
है ना? तो यहीं पर प्रॉब्लम आ जाती है। तो यहीं पर वो लोग क्या करते हैं, दैट दोज पीपल हु आर नॉट वेरी मच अवेयर, उन लोगों को ये लगता है कि इन्होंने इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर की बात तो करी और इन्होंने बोल दिया हमारा इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर जो है वो बहुत अच्छा है, लेकिन वो असली इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर है ही नहीं। तो उसका नाम कुछ भी रख सकते हैं, साइंटिफिक इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर, जर्नल इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर, बट एग्जैक्टली इट इज नॉट बीइंग आउट देयर, राइट? इसीलिए व्हेन यू आर लुकिंग अपॉन द कॉन्सेप्ट, टू बी वेरी वेरी श्योर कि जो इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर है उसको आप बहुत ध्यान से देखिए, राइट? एट द सेम टाइम आई एम शेयरिंग माई स्क्रीन वंस अगेन so that you are able to take up the things in the next perspective. यहाँ पर आप देखेंगे तो आपको दिखेगा यहाँ पर समथिंग राइट, कॉल फॉर पेपर्स, कॉल फॉर पेपर्स। आप देख पा रहे हो?
Yes. January issue submission.
अब आप देखो कि ये जर्नल जो है ये कितनी जल्दी आपका पेपर छाप रहा है।
27 जनवरी 29 जनवरी 31 जनवरी
विद इन 2 to 3 days। और ये जो मैंने आपके साथ स्क्रीन में शेयर कर रहा हूँ, ये जो मैं शेयर कर रहा हूँ ये एक्चुअल है। आप बहुत सारे जर्नल्स ऐसे देखोगे जिसके ऊपर आपको ये चीजें मिलेंगी, राइट? अब आप देखो, ये जर्नल जब कह रहा है कि वो 27 जनवरी तक आप पेपर दे दो और 31 जनवरी को आप पेपर पब्लिश हुआ हुआ ले लो, क्या ये प्रीडेटरी है? चैट बॉक्स प्लीज, क्या ये प्रीडेटरी है? चैट बॉक्स, हाँ जी, क्या ये प्रीडेटरी है? सीमा, व्हाई यू आर सेइंग इट इज नो? Seema is saying it is not. I just want to know why it is not as per Seema.
Seema, give your rationale behind your answer, beta.
आप ये कहना चाह रहे हो सीमा कि ये प्रेडिटरी जर्नल है? ग्रेट, देन वी ऑल आर इन द सेम पेज, राइट? तो इसका मतलब आप देखो कि जर्नल ही आपको बोल रहे हैं साफ साफ कि ये 2 से 3 दिन में पब्लिश कर देगा तो प्रेडिटरी है। अब ये बात आपको पता है क्या? औरों को पता है? बिल्कुल पता है। तो जब आप इस जर्नल में छापोगे तो हर कोई समझ जाएगा दैट यू हैव मेड अ पब्लिकेशन इन दी प्रेडिटरी जर्नल। तो हेल्प होने की बजाय आपको नुकसान हो जाएगा, राइट? सो दिस इज वेयर वी से कि प्रीडेटरी जर्नल जो है ना उसको हमें दूर से ही पहचान लेना चाहिए और फिर हमें उसके साथ चीजों को देखना चाहिए। अब यहाँ पे मैं आपको एक जर्नल दिखाता हूँ, ठीक है? अब आप इस जर्नल को देखो बहुत ध्यान से, ठीक है? इस जर्नल का नाम है इंटरनेशनल जर्नल ऑफ इनोवेशन एंड साइंस एंड मैथमेटिक्स, ठीक है? अब हम इस जर्नल को जब हम देखते हैं और इस जर्नल के ऊपर हम जब थोड़ी सी रिसर्च करते हैं कि ये जर्नल है कैसा, ठीक है, कैसा ये जर्नल काम कर रहा है, तो हमें इस जर्नल पर थोड़ी सी निगाह डालनी पड़ेगी। ठीक है, जब हम इस जर्नल पे जाते हैं, इसके वेबसाइट पे जाते हैं और हम इस जर्नल के बारे में जब इंफॉर्मेशन डिग करने की कोशिश करते हैं, ठीक है, तो ये जर्नल जो है ये हमें कुछ ऐसी चीजों की तरफ लेकर जाता है। ठीक है, वो कौन सी चीजें मैं आपको अभी दिखा रहा हूँ। अब आप बताना कि ये प्रीडेटरी है या नहीं है। क्या आप स्क्रीन देख पा रहे हो?
Yes, it is.
राइट। अब देखो, ये जर्नल आपसे पैसा मांग रहा है क्या?
Charges आइए ना।
राइट, द जर्नल इज आस्किंग यू फॉर मनी। ठीक है, पहली चीज। दूसरी चीज बड़ी मजेदार, आप यहाँ पे देखना। ठीक है, अब आप देखो यहाँ पे टॉपिक्स। टॉपिक्स का मतलब है कि किन किन एरियाज में आप जर्नल में पेपर पब्लिश करा सकते हो। ठीक है, मैं लिस्ट को मूव करे जा रहा हूँ, करे जा रहा हूँ, करे जा रहा हूँ, करे जा रहा हूँ। ठीक है, और हम आगे बढ़ते जा रहे हैं, बढ़ते जा रहे हैं। आप देख रहे हो कितनी बड़ी लिस्ट है पेपर्स की जिनमें आप टॉपिक्स में छाप सकते हो। एग्री? यस।
No field is lacking.
नो फील्ड इज लैकिंग। इसका मतलब क्या ये प्रीडेटरी का साइन है कि जर्नल को पता ही नहीं कि उसको कहां पर जाना है, उसकी कोई स्पेशलाइजेशन नहीं है। दे आर फोकस्ड कि हमारे को पैसा मिल जाए, हम जर्नल में पेपर तो कोई भी छाप देंगे। एग्जैक्टली, इट इज टुवर्ड्स मेकिंग मनी, टोटली ऑन दैट। और आगे चलते हैं और इसको थोड़ा सा डीप डाइव करते हैं। ठीक है, अभी आप देखिए साइटेशंस। ठीक है, जब आप साइटेशंस पे जाएंगे फिर आपको वहां पर एक नया कॉन्सेप्ट दिख जाएगा इसका। ठीक है, ऐसे ही जब आप इस जर्नल को बहुत ध्यान से जब आप देख रहे हैं तो आपको बहुत सारी नई नई चीजें मिलेंगी जो इसके साथ मूव अप हो रही होंगी, है ना। और वहीं पर हमारे लिए इम्पोर्टेंट हो जाता है पता लगाना कि जो जर्नल है उसकी लिंकेज कैसी है और वो किस तरीके से मूव अप हो रहा है। मैं आपसे स्क्रीन दोबारा शेयर कर रहा हूँ और वहां पर हम एक चीज और देखने की कोशिश करेंगे विद द सेम जर्नल। ठीक है, अब आप देखियो, देखिए इस पर्टिकुलर जर्नल पे एंड यू गो टू द एडिटोरियल बोर्ड। राइट, मैंने इसके एडिटोरियल बोर्ड पे क्लिक किया है। कितने एडिटर हैं यहाँ पर? कितने एडिटर हैं? एनी आइडिया? कोई इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं है।
Yes, no information.
इसका मतलब गड़बड़ है। अब एक और चीज देखिए, आप इसके इश्यूज पे जाइए। ठीक है, इश्यूज में हम जाते हैं। ठीक है, 2021, 2021 पे जब आप इसके इश्यू पे जा रहे हैं, राइट, आप देख रहे हैं इसके कितने पेपर्स यहाँ पर पब्लिश हो रहे हैं। राइट, यहाँ पर से ही आपको आइडिया लग जाएगा कि जर्नल जो है वो किस तरीके से मूव अप हो रहा है। ठीक है, अभी आप एक चीज और देखो, यहाँ पे इंडेक्स पे जाइए जरा। आपको ये वाला स्लाइड दिख रहा है ना? राइट,
Yes, sir.
है ना। यहाँ पर देखो कोई भी एक इंडेक्स ऐसा है जो ढंग का हो। आपने
Mostly
देख,
search engines are being cited.
हाँ,
Google,
इन्होंने गूगल
Yahoo.
गूगल को साइड कर दिया, गूगल और याहू को। ये तो इंडेक्सिंग करते ही नहीं है, तो सर्च इंजन है। राइट, अब जो नया नया रिसर्च में आ रहा है ना, वो बेचारा भ्रमित हो जाता है कि अच्छा ये गूगल पे भी अवेलेबल है, ये याहू, वहां तो हर कुछ अवेलेबल है। राइट, इस तरीके से प्रीडेटरी जर्नल जो हैं वो आपको बेवकूफ बनाने की कोशिश करते हैं। राइट, तो इस पर्टिकुलर जो चीज है, यहाँ से आप कहीं ना कहीं कुछ देख पा रहे हो कि किस तरीके की चीजें मूव हो रही हैं इसके साथ। राइट, और जितनी भी ये चीजें मूव हो रही हैं, ये सारी की सारी हमें इशारा दे रही हैं दैट दिस जर्नल इज मूविंग टुवर्ड्स द प्रीडेटरी एस्पेक्ट। अब देखिए, मैं इसका एक वॉल्यूम 10 इशू 4 जुलाई 2022 खोल रहा हूँ। राइट, जिसका भी रिकॉर्ड नहीं आया, then I will be going up with may, right, which is right there over here, right, which is saying that there is only one particular paper, right. Then I go with the January for them, which is showing that there are only 3 papers in this particular journal, right. Now understand, क्या कोई एक पेपर के लिए जर्नल पब्लिश होता है क्या? क्या कोई एक पेपर के लिए जर्नल पब्लिश होता है क्या? बताइए। ऐसा तो नहीं होता है। इसका मतलब जिस महीने इनको पैसा मिला उस महीने का पेपर छाप दिया, जिस महीने नहीं मिला उस महीने पेपर नहीं छापा। अब आप मुझे बताओ कि क्या इस जर्नल को मैं इन सारी चीजों के हिसाब से प्रीडेटरी जर्नल बोल दूं? क्या इन सब चीजों के हिसाब से इस जर्नल को प्रीडेटरी जर्नल बोल दूं? राइट, तो ये
Is
थोड़ी,
responding in yes.
राइट, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर रिस्पॉन्स। यही सारी चीजें हैं जो एक जर्नल को प्रीडेटरी जर्नल बनाती हैं। मतलब वो जर्नल जो कि सही ढंग से काम नहीं कर रहा और जहां पर पब्लिकेशन उस प्रोसेस से नहीं हो रही जिस प्रोसेस से वो होनी चाहिए। ठीक है ना? मैं अपनी स्क्रीन आपसे अभी दोबारा शेयर कर रहा हूँ, राइट, वेयर वी विल हैव द डिस्कशन मोर ऑन दिस पर्टिकुलर रिगार्ड, राइट। तो जब हम प्रीडेटरी जर्नल की बात कर रहे हैं, राइट, तो एक और चीज हमारे पास यहाँ पर दिख कर आ रही है, which is something which is in the last one, very short peer review and acceptance period। कि आपने पेपर दिया, पेपर हाथ के हाथ सबमिट हो गया। ऐसी एक जर्नल और देखते हैं, है ना? आपके सामने एक जर्नल और है, मैं इस जर्नल की वेबसाइट पे जाता हूँ आपके साथ, ठीक है, और आप मुझे बताओगे इस वेबसाइट पर, ठीक है, कि आपको ऐसी कोई चीज है जो कि लग रही है कि ये गड़बड़ है ना? आप, मैं आपकी वेबसाइट आपके साथ आपके सामने सामने स्क्रॉल करूंगा, ठीक है, मैं कुछ नहीं बोलूंगा, आप बोलोगे, आप बताओगे कि कहाँ कहाँ पर गड़बड़ हो रही है। जैसे ही आपको कोई गड़बड़ दिखेगी आप उसको चैट बॉक्स में जो है टाइप करोगे, ठीक है। आई एम जस्ट शेयरिंग the website with you. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Right, so the first thing I'm moving across is like this. I'm waiting for a response in the chat box. Google displays, because Google is into this business, it is very clear. Cybercrime scheme is happening everywhere. It is we who have to be very, very cautious. Right? Google, GIF, right? And all those kind of things, which is Google, by the way, indexing करता ही नहीं है ना? Google तो search engine है, वो तो indexing करता ही नहीं है. Right? That is the thing which is out there. ठीक है, आगे चलते हैं. Very right, Bubbly, in this particular regard. Right? अभी जाते हैं with reference to topics covered. अभी देखेंगे टॉपिक्स कवर्ड, हमको बहुत मजा आने वाला है। देखो जरा, आप में से अगर किसी का टॉपिक इसमें छूटा हो तो मुझे बता देना। अकाउंटिंग एंड फाइनेंस से शुरू हुए हैं हम लोग, केमिस्ट्री भी है यहाँ पर, ज्योग्राफी भी है, लाइफ साइंसेस भी है, मेडिसिन भी है, मेडिकल भी है, स्पोर्ट्स भी है, यूनानी मेडिसिन भी है। कुछ बचा है क्या? है ना? इट इज द जर्नल इज सो वाइज, उसके पास सब कुछ है। राइट ममता, कि इसके पास आप जो मर्जी टॉपिक का पेपर भेज दो, वो आपका पेपर पब्लिश कर देगा फॉर श्योर, irrespective of which subject, which concept, which topic, which particular theme you are related with. It covers each and everything, which is not possible. राइट एक और चीज देखते हैं यहाँ पर हम लोग, दी एडिटोरियल बोर्ड। ठीक है, जब आप एडिटोरियल बोर्ड देखोगे, you will find so many people over there. ठीक है, and they may or may not be related, may not be right or wrong, so many things which can happen, right? I'm not offending anyone, but can you understand that a person of a assistant professor level is good enough as of now to be on a reviewers board? I'm not saying assistant professors are not good. I'm saying they need more experience to do all those kind of things. वो रिव्यूअर बहुत अच्छे हो सकते हैं, लेकिन रिव्यूअर बोर्ड में आना एक डिफरेंट थिंग। डू वी एग्री? है ना? मैं भी कभी असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर था, तो हम सारी चीजें धीरे धीरे मूव होती है ना। इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर 7 से ऊपर बिल्कुल राइट, वो हो ही नहीं सकता। अच्छे अच्छे जर्नल्स का नहीं होता 7 से ऊपर, बहुत अच्छे जर्नल्स आर 3-4 मोर और लेस, राइट? यूजीसी जर्नल कैसे अप्रूव है नहीं, वो भी हम अभी डिस्कस कर लेंगे थोड़ी देर में, राइट? अब आप ये सारी चीजें देखिए एंड यू आर एबल टू फाइंड आउट दैट द थिंग्स आर नॉट मैचिंग राइट ओवर हेयर। अब हम देखते हैं इसके इश्यूज को, ठीक है, एंड आई विल शो यू द इशू फॉर जून। ये इशू जून का पहला टैब है, और इस पहले टैब में आप देखो इतने सारे पेपर्स हैं, ठीक है। ये दूसरा टैब है, ये तीसरा टैब है। हर टैब में लगभग लगभग 18 रिकॉर्ड्स हैं, आप देख रहे हो 18 टैब्स, 26 टैब्स, एंड बढ़ते जा रहे हैं, बढ़ते जा रहे हैं, बढ़ते जा रहे हैं। इसका मतलब जर्नल जो है वो एक महीने में कितने सारे पेपर छाप रहा है? हाउ मेनी पेपर्स दे आर हैविंग इन 1 month? Kanchan, UGC is doing so many things by saying that you only and only focus on UGC care listed journals, right? UGC is doing the thing, but like anything else, business also comes in each and everything. So as a consumer and a user, we have to be very, very aware of it. And you should be thankful to this particular Baba Masnath University that they are doing this particular thing. So these sessions are basically for this, ताकि रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स को पता चल सके कैसी फ्रॉडलेंट प्रैक्टिसेस हैं। यहाँ पर सोनू जो इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर 7.4 का मतलब है कि हर एक पेपर जो है ना वो कम से कम 7 बार साइट हुआ है, जो कि गलत है ना। इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर का मतलब होता है कि हर पेपर जो है वो कम से कम 7 बार साइट होना चाहिए, राइट? दैट इज अ सिनेरियो। एग्री, एग्री, राइट? एंड दैट इज द रीजन, जैसे ही जर्नल आपको यहाँ पर सारी चीजें ऐसी जब दिखनी शुरू हो जाए ना, तो आपको पता लगा देना चाहिए दैट दिस इज समथिंग प्रॉब्लमैटिक आउट देयर, right? And at the same time, you're also able to see something which is very, very important. What many of you are looking up is the impact factor 7.429, right? Now, the moment you say 7.429 over here, right, it is saying that this is basically happening across for something else, and they are giving you something else in that particular aspect, right? And that is where the things becomes totally dodgiest and they're not able to link it up, right? अब इसकी एक और मेजर चीज देखिए आप, which is something called as a processing charges, right? Now over here just see 1500, if you want a soft copy 200 as well, right? And just see what is the encourages into the publication of one entire research paper in online. Online what? इतना भी नहीं पता इनको, इसमें भी दिक्कत आ गई है, राइट। इंडेक्सिंग प्रोसेस, एडिटोरियल प्रोसेस, मेंटेनेंस ऑफ वेबसाइट, जर्नल का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, वो तो ऑनलाइन है ना। सो थिंग्स आर वेरी वेरी dubious and being not out there correctly over there. Okay, and the moment you say that they follow a peer review or a publication policy, so everything is written, right? But the problem is that the things are not absolutely corrected in that particular reference altogether, right? And that is where the problem comes in this particular regard. And that is the reason when we look across, we have to be very, very cautious in this particular reference, right? Because if we are not very, very cautious, we are able to see that the things will not work in the same regard altogether, right? So, before I move on to the next aspect, how many of you are able to see and understand that what exactly is a predatory journal? Anyone having any confusion as of now? See,
There is
Sonu,
a query from
हाँ जी,
Sonu side.
सोनू देखो, सिर्फ पैसा लेना गलत नहीं है. Important is not that they are charging money. Important is that they are not following the process. There are certain journals which charges money, लेकिन पैसा देने के बाद भी आपका पेपर 1 साल 2 साल बाद पब्लिश होगा, क्योंकि वो पैसा रिव्यूअर्स को देने में यूज कर रहे हैं. एग्रीइंग माय पॉइंट. सो ऐसा नहीं हम कह सकते कि ओनली इफ यू आर गिविंग मनी इट इज प्रीडेटरी. बट प्रीडेटरी तब है जब वो प्रोसेस को फॉलो नहीं कर रहे हैं, एंड द ऑब्जेक्टिव इज टू मिंट मनी rather than to help the researcher. For example, there is a journal which is MDPI. ठीक है, ये जर्नल लगभग लगभग 1 लाख रुपया लेता है, right? This journal will take roughly 1 lakh rupees as a processing fees, but you will get the publication in almost 2 years with a very important thing. And the last thing which I want to discuss in this particular session, then we will be having a lunch break and the another session, right, which is something called as a rejection rate.
Sir, there is another query from Mamta Pasreja. She is asking, sir, every year UGC is updating the list which is dynamic, and
Right.
most of the UGC cited journals also getting publishing charges.
Yes, that is what I am saying, ma'am, कि पैसा लेने का ऑब्जेक्टिव बहुत अलग अलग हो सकते हैं, पर सिर्फ पैसा देते ही पब्लिकेशन की अगर गारंटी मिल रही है तो 100% प्रीडेटरी है.
So
Right.
if UGC care list journals which are on the UGC side, if they
Right.
are taking publishing charges, it doesn't matter.
It matters because generally if you're paying and publishing, that is not the right thing. इसलिए यूजीसी
Ethically,
भी
it is not right.
राइट, यूजीसी भी इसलिए अपनी लिस्ट को रिवाइज करती है, क्योंकि जैसी कोई जर्नल केयर लिस्ट में आता है उनको लगता है इट इज अ गुड टाइम टू मिंट मनी.
Yes, they
जब
starting
तक
spending the money
यस
from there.
यस, तो जैसे ही यूजीसी को पता चलता है ये सारी चीजें, वो उस जर्नल को बाहर करते हैं. पर वो बाहर करने और इस करने में पूरा टाइम लगता है, और उसी टाइम का वो लोग फायदा उठाने की कोशिश करते हैं, राइट. अब आप देखिए, जो बहुत अच्छे जर्नल्स हैं जिनका एक्चुअली में इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर बहुत ज्यादा है, वो जर्नल्स में अगर 100 पेपर जाते हैं ना, तो उसमें से सिर्फ 8 पेपर पब्लिश होते हैं. मतलब 92 जर्नल्स पब्लिश नहीं होते. लेकिन जो प्रीडेटरी जर्नल है उसमें अगर 100 पेपर्स जा रहे हैं तो पूरे 100 के 100 पब्लिश होंगे. डू वी एग्री?
Yes.
यस. तो अगर कोई जर्नल आपको रिजेक्ट नहीं करता, आपका पेपर में कोई चेंज नहीं कराता, तो वहां पर आप मान लो कि कुछ ना कुछ गड़बड़ चल रही है, राइट. वैसे भी आप देखिए, अभी क्वेश्चन आया है कि इस रेफरेंस में, यूजीसी केयर के रेफरेंस में, कि अगर कोई पब्लिकेशन कर चुका है तो क्या होगा, ठीक है ना। तो देखिए हर आज की डेट में क्या सिनेरियो है कि फॉर एवरीथिंग देयर इज अ टाइम पीरियड, ठीक है। टाइम पीरियड का मतलब है कि सपोज करो एक जर्नल जो है वो यूजीसी केयर लिस्ट में या किसी भी लिस्ट में 2021 से 2023 तक का था। अगर वो इस पीरियड में उस लिस्ट में था और आपका इस पीरियड की लिस्ट में जर्नल में पब्लिकेशन हुआ है, तो आपका पब्लिकेशन यूजीसी केयर लिस्टेड जर्नल का माना जाएगा। अगर उस दौरान नहीं हुआ है, उसके आगे पीछे हुआ है, जब वो जर्नल यूजीसी केयर लिस्ट में नहीं था या किसी और लिस्ट में नहीं था, तो वो वहां पे नहीं माना जाएगा। क्लियर होती है इतनी बात? राइट। तो वहां से हमें उसको पता लगाने की चीजें देखनी पड़ेंगी, ठीक है ना। पर प्रीडेटरी जर्नल में एक चीज बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है कि हमें क्लैरिटी होनी चाहिए कि जो प्रीडेटरी जर्नल है ना, वो प्रीडेटरी जर्नल जो है वो हमें इंडिकेशन देता है कि हम पता लगा पाए कि वो प्रीडेटरी जर्नल है, और उसी रेफरेंस से हमें चीजें दिख जाएंगी दैट दैट जर्नल इज मूविंग टुवर्ड्स द प्रीडेटरी और इट इज एक्चुअली अ प्रीडेटरी जर्नल। क्लोन जर्नल सीमा जी आर दोज जर्नल्स जो कि एक एक्चुअल जर्नल के बिल्कुल मिलते जुलते जर्नल है। वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन। देखिए होता क्या है, आपने सबने मूवी देखी होगी जिसमें जुड़वा अपीयरेंसेस होती है, राइट, जुड़वा होते हैं, राइट। एक जुड़वा होता है, एक बहरूपिया होता है और एक नकली होता है। तीनों में फर्क समझते हैं हम लोग, राइट। तो क्लोन्ड जर्नल्स वो जर्नल्स हैं जो कि एक्चुअल जर्नल से मिलते जुलते हैं, उनका नाम भी सेम है, सब कुछ सेम है, लेकिन उनकी वेबसाइट अलग है। वो एक तरीके से उन्होंने जो एक्चुअल सही जर्नल है ना, बिल्कुल उसको कॉपी किया और उस कॉपी करके उसकी तरफ वहां पे लोगों को ले गए, ठीक है। दिस इज क्लोन जर्नल।
Sir,
क्लोन जर्नल की
is there
पहचान,
any example in your mind right now?
मैम क्लोन जर्नल जो है ना, ये जर्नल बहुत फ्रीक्वेंटली अपने आप को चेंज करते हैं। रीजन बीइंग, क्योंकि जो क्लोनिंग है ना वो पता चल जाती है बहुत जल्दी, राइट। अगर आपको किसी ओरिजिनल कॉन्सेप्ट पे जाना है, आपको देखना है, तो आई एम जस्ट शेयरिंग माय स्क्रीन विद यू, right, where, and in fact I will be sharing my ppts with madam Sushila, right, where
Yes.
you will see that how to identify the things। आप देख रहे हो यहाँ पर something like this, are you able to see these guidelines? There's a link out here, are you able to see that?
Yes,
Right, right. And there is also a link which is a list for predatory publishers, which is the latest one, 2005 के बाद अपडेट नहीं हुई है। ये दोनों की दोनों जो आपको वेबसाइट्स है ना, इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट में ये चीजें जो हैं आपको दिखती हैं सावित्री बाई फुले यूनिवर्सिटी। तो यूजीसी केयर ने क्या किया, सावित्री बाई फुले यूनिवर्सिटी जो है वो सारी चीजों को देख रहे हैं आज की डेट में, और वहां पर आप सारी चीजों को देख पाओगे। and if you go to their particular website, you are able to identify that how you are able to look across for the things related to the PhD, relating to the journals, and many of the things which is being out there, right? So मेरी सजेशन आप लोगों को यही है कि आप जब भी कोई जर्नल को सिलेक्ट कर रहे हो, बी वेरी वेरी specific, right? Because there are so many journals which are clone journals, journals which are fake journals, journals which are predatory, and there will be no such advantage which will you will be able to get from these particular journals in totality, right? So इसलिए बड़ा important है जब भी हम बात कर रहे हैं इन सब चीजों के रेफरेंस में, so we must be very very careful right? That before identifying any journal, we should be in a position to give at least have a good look of how the things work on. I'm sharing my screen with all of you where you are able to see certain of the things in this particular regard. Are you able to see a UDC website? Is it visible? Is it
Yes.
visible? Right? So over here, you are able to see the clone journals in both the groups, group 1 and group 2. By the way, UDC care list has two groups, right? Which is group 1 and group 2, where group 1 is basically Indian journals and group 2 are globally recognized databases. Right? Over here, you can go across for the similar kind of things. Right? अब आप इसको यहाँ से देखिए, जैसे जर्नल का नाम है आब्रू, राइट? क्लोन जर्नल का नाम है आब्रू जर्नल, देख पा रहे हो आप लोग? Is it okay?
It is with the yellow color you have highlighted.
Yes. On the left of side of yours, it is a print journal which is in the UGC care list, and on the right side of yours, it is a clone journal which is of course not included in the UGC care list. Getting my point? Yeah. Right. For example, if you see over here, right, very specifically, when you look, you're able to find that the name for 11th one is exactly same. Is it? They have completely cloned it. Right? And you can see so many things which is being out there. Right? So when you want to see whether a journal is genuine or not, you can always select search and it will give you the right indication that whether it is a right kind of a journal you are looking for or you are being duped with reference to a predatory journal. Agreed? Great. Right. So we are almost at the end of this particular session. Right. After that, we'll be having a lunch break and we all will be assembling back at around 2. But before I end up this particular session, I just want to know anybody have any doubts in their mind? CMET is very simple. That is the journals who are of your own country, that is India, they are national journals for you. And any journal which is having a publication house outside India is an international journal for you. Anyone having any questions? If not, please type in the chat box that how do you find this particular session so that I can get a base that what is your expectation and have we able to meet those expectations or not. Exactly, totally agree, Sehgal. Thanks,
Each and
Neha.
everybody is interactive with the session, sir. They are getting knowledge,
Good,
and I
good.
highly thankful to you.
No, you cannot publish Kanchan. For that, the good way is that you at least change 40% of your content. Publication of research is not mandatory. In the next session, what we start with around 2 o'clock, I will start with that particular brief and then we will move on that. Thank you, everyone. And I hope all of you got the information and the good insights in this particular session. Right, I will be sharing my PPTs with Madam Sushila for all the 3 sessions which I will be conducting today after the lunch, this one and for tomorrow's as well. Right, and keeping view in this particular regard कि हम सबको एक अच्छा रिसर्च पब्लिकेशन करना है, कम हो चलेंगे 2 साल के करो चलेगा, लेकिन 2 ऐसे होने चाहिए जो धमाकेदार हो, है ना?
Sir, would
ऐसे
you
ना
like to suggest any name of any journal belonging to management as well as humanities and education side?
Yes,
Or
ma'am, I will do.
psychology?
I will do. In the next session, I will start with all those particular things. है ना, अभी पूरा ये ग्राफ्स करने में इनको दिक्कत आएगी, तो हम धीरे धीरे
Yes, yes.
सीक्वेंस वाइज चलेंगे, है ना, and that is very very important for them.
Thank you,
Right?
sir. So we
Pleasure.
will going to wind up this session to join again.
Right.
Thank you,
all
Nimit
of you.
sir. But a wonderful and interactive session. A lot of information might have students will get from this session. If still they are having some doubts, we have another session with you. So hoping that all are going to join. Please do not lose this session. Do not skip this session. Already I have informed you as well as request as a teacher, as a researcher, that do not skip this session tomorrow, today onwards. It is their luck if they are missing, their bad luck or good luck, it is up to you. So we have tried to organize what important aspects we can clear from our platform. And we have a wonderful resource person. Still, if you are not able to get valuable information, it is I cannot help in that. Thank you, Nimisa. You can look out the screen, and we will join again at 2 o'clock. Till then, participants, you can take a tea break or lunch break and relax your mind so that we can join with a new energy and so that we can become much and more refreshed to get more and more knowledge. The thirst of knowledge cannot be stopped. So it is just we are pausing, not we are ending the session. Soon join you at 2 o'clock.